A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Five bells. Stand by all stations.
Attention, all districts of 5-alarm fire. 5 bells, move in immediately.
That's it. Let's go! Let's go! Firefighters! Presenting Firefighters, the true to life story of our unsung heroes who stand ready to ride by day or night against our most murderous enemy, the demon of fire. In just a minute, we'll join the Collinses at their dinner table, where Jimmy and Trudy are excitedly talking over their plans to visit the old Wilcox mansion in the hope of getting Mrs. Wilcox to donate some antiques for the Junior Firefighters Antique Fair. There's a startling adventure in store for them. But before we learn about it, here's a message for you. Let's go, firefighters. Let's go to the Collins home, where Jimmy and Trudy Collins are discussing the antique fair, which the Firefighters Brigade are going to hold to raise money for the organization. The big question now is where to get donations of old furniture and other antique objects to sell at the fair. As they finish their evening meal, Mother Collins comes up with an idea.
Well, if you want some real antiques, I think I know just the place to go.
Gee, where, Mom? We've got to have something really good and old so people will want to come to the sale.
Well, I don't know, but I understand that Mrs. Wilcox up on Signal Hill has a house full of antiques. If you could persuade her to donate something.
Oh, Mrs. Wilcox? You mean the lady who lives alone in that big house? Gee, I'd be afraid to ask her.
Yeah, I hear she's funny, doesn't like kids, chases them off the place when they come around.
Oh, I don't think she's that way. She is a little odd from living alone, but she comes from an old, respectable family in town. I'm sure she'd be courteous to you if you went up there and asked her nicely.
Oh, gee, that old house. Well, it looks so spooky just to walk by it. I don't think I want to go there.
But if she would give us something for the sale, Mom, do you think she might?
Well, I think she might. She's a lonely old lady. Despite what folks say about her being mean, I'll bet she'd be happy to talk to you. When you explained about the sale, I think she'll be glad to help.
Well, that settles it then. If Mrs. Wilcox will come through with some antiques, Trudy, we're going up to see her.
Oh, but Jimmy, aren't you scared? Only the other day some kids were playing in her yard and she came out with a stick and chased them off.
Well, they were probably making a nuisance of themselves. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you want to go over this evening, I'll phone Mrs. Wilcox before you go and explain everything.
Would you, Mom? Well, that'll be swell. Then there won't be any trouble.
I'll go phone right away. Meanwhile, you children clear off the table.
Okay, Mom. Oh, but still, I don't know about going.
Oh, what you afraid of, Trudy? Mom will call and fix everything up, and then she'll be expecting us. Gee, girls are always afraid of something.
Oh, they aren't either. Yet you're afraid, too, only you don't want to admit it.
Who's afraid? She's just an old lady. What can she do?
I don't know, but what about the house?
What do you mean?
Well, it's supposed to be haunted, they say.
Haunted? There isn't any such thing as a haunted house. That's just superstition.
Well, maybe. Once when Betty Sanford was walking past there at night, she heard a scream and saw something run across the yard.
Oh, just her imagination. Leave it to a girl to imagine she sees a ghost.
She didn't say it was a ghost, but it was something.
Well, I called Mrs. Wilcox, and she said she'd be delighted to have you come over. She was just as nice as could be.
Oh, that's swell, Mom. Come on, Trudy, we better go before it gets any later.
You sure she wasn't angry or anything, Mom?
No, dear, she was very cordial. Now you run along with Jimmy, and I'll finish the dishes.
Okay, Mom. Come on, Trudy.
Well, all right. If you're sure.
And hurry home, children. I want you back before dark.
Sure, Mom. It won't take us long. Boy, this is a break, visiting the old Wilcox mansion and getting something for the sale, too.
Followed by the slightly timid Trudy, Jimmy leads the way across town to Signal Hill. The sun is dropping behind the buildings of the city as they approach, and the long shadows of evening lay along the street. High up on a wooded hill, they can see the old Wilcox mansion, a tall gray house with a cupola and circular windows that look down upon them like a dozen unwinking eyes. As they turn up the long curving drive, Trudy suddenly stops and says,
"Oh, Jimmy, I'm scared."
Oh, now, Trudy, there's nothing to be afraid of. Didn't Mom call, and didn't she say everything was all right?
Oh, yes. Oh, but the house. Doesn't it look awful scary?
Well, it is pretty old, but it's nothing to be afraid of. Come on, we'll get the antiques Mrs. Wilcox has for us and go right home.
Boy, the sooner the better for me.
Gee, there sure are a lot of big trees in the yard.
Yeah. They must be hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Oh.
What was that?
Well, a bird, I guess. Did it scare you?
Yeah, little. Mom, let's hurry, Jimmy. Maybe it'll be better in the house.
Yeah. Here we are. I wonder where the doorbell is.
I don't see any. Maybe you have to knock.
Here's something that looks like a doorbell, only it says pull.
Well, go ahead, pull it.
I am. Give me time.
Oh, gosh. What a funny sounding doorbell.
Maybe she didn't hear. I'll pull it again.
Gee, Mom said she was expecting us. Wonder why she doesn't come.
Yeah, that is funny.
Don't keep ringing the bell, son. I hear you.
Oh, Mrs. Wilcox?
That's right, Mrs. Worthington Wilcox.
Oh, I'm Jimmy Collins, and this is my sister Trudy.
Yes, your mother called. I've been expecting you. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Mrs. Wilcox, as Mom may have told you, the Firefighters Brigade is having an antique sale to raise some money, and we thought
You thought that old Mrs. Wilcox, living in this old house, might have some old things for the sale.
Well,
you're right, young man. I have a house full of old things. Everything about this house is old. Very old, including myself. I'm sure we can find something for this, what do you call this organization of yours?
The Firefighters Brigade. It's a group of kids at our school. We study and practice ways of helping prevent fires and try to get other people to do the same thing.
Well, very interesting. Tell me, young man, do you smoke?
Well, no, Mrs. Wilcox. I'm only 15.
That's a good thing. I detest smoking. Can't stand people smoking around me. My late husband, T. Worthington Wilcox, smoked. The only thing I couldn't stand about him. Made him smoke his pipe in the garage. He died 29 years ago this month.
Oh, gee, I'm sorry.
Well, no matter. It was a long time ago. Almost forgotten. Now, tell me, what kind of antiques do you want?
Well, almost anything you have. Old glassware or a small piece of furniture.
I tell you what. Up in the attic, there's hundreds of old things been stored up there for years. We ought to find something you could use.
Well, that would be fine, Mrs. Wilcox.
Oh, you talk, do you? I wondered you were so quiet. Are you shy, little girl, or just afraid?
Oh, no, Mrs. Wilcox. I guess I'm just shy.
Probably scared. Can't say I blame you. This old house is not the cheeriest place in the world, but I like it. Born here 78 years ago. Probably die here, too. But it's no place for youth. People who are really alive.
Oh, I think it's a nice place, Mrs. Wilcox.
It's polite of you to say so, son. Well, I'll go up to the attic and look around. You won't be frightened alone.
Oh, no, Mrs. Wilcox. You go ahead.
I won't be long. Don't go away.
Oh, gosh, Jimmy. She is funny, isn't she?
Yeah. The way she talks, it's sort of crazy-like.
Do you think she really is?
No, probably just that way from living alone so long. Gee, what a funny old room this is.
Yeah. All this old furniture and books and magazines and funny curtains.
Yeah. Doesn't look like it's been cleaned in a million years.
You know, I told her I wasn't afraid. But I am a little.
Oh, I hope she doesn't take long. It's getting dark already.
Yeah. Jimmy.
Yeah, Trudy?
You sure there aren't any such thing as haunted houses?
Well, sure, I'm sure. It's just stories people make up.
Yeah, but gosh, I've heard that... What's that?
Oh, that's nothing. It's only a clock. See, in the corner.
I want to go home, Jimmy. She's been so long. It's getting dark, and Mom will be worried.
Oh, wait a little longer. She'll come down, and I'll bet she'll have something really nice for the sale.
Oh, but Jimmy, it's scary here.
Children!
Jimmy!
It's Mrs. Wilcox.
Jimmy! Trudy! Come up here to the attic. I have something for you.
She wants us to go up in the attic.
Oh, Jimmy, I don't want to. I want to go home.
Well, Jimmy and Trudy find themselves in a pretty scary situation. All alone in the old mansion with a strange old Mrs. Wilcox, Trudy wants to forget all about the antiques and run for home when Mrs. Wilcox calls for them to follow her up into the attic. But Jimmy still has his heart set on collecting some choice items for the brigade sale. To learn what happens if and when they do climb the stairs, be sure to listen to the next true-to-life episode of The Firefighters. In just a moment, Chief Bob Cody will tell you, boys and girls, how you can help the firefighters in your own town. But first, here's a message I'd like you to hear. Now, Chief Bob Cody with a special notice for the Firefighters Brigade.
Hello, boys and girls. This is Chief Cody with a common sense tip on how to prevent fires in a place where home fires are very common. The family garage. The garage is often used for storage as well as for the car and the extra things stored there. Old newspapers, lumber, etc., which are likely to be inflammable. Therefore, it's mighty important to keep the garage floor clean of oil drippings and gasoline in order to avoid the danger of a bad fire. Remember, to help fight the hazard of fire, keep the family garage clean. Well, that's all for now. You'll be hearing from me again soon.
Fire Chief Cody and the young rookie fireman Tim Collins will be back on the same station the next time you hear... That's it. Let's go! Let's go! Firefighters!
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. A jewelry salesman is slugged and robbed of $20,000 in precious stones. After months of investigation, you finally discover the man responsible for the holdup. You've got the evidence to prove him guilty. Your job, bring him in. Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Now, best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you are now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, July 18th. It was sultry in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. It was 1:35 p.m. when we got back to the city hall, the interrogation room.
What's on, Mr. Garvey?
Yes, all right. You want to call the captain, Ed? Let him know we're back?
Okay.
Thanks.
I'd still like to know what this is all about, Sergeant, dragging me down here in the middle of the day. I've got an office.
Just a minute, Mr.
Yeah, I just got back. Mm-hmm. All of them? Good. Yeah, interrogation room, right?
The others check in yet?
Yeah, they're all back. Worked out fine. Would you please explain what this is about, why you've brought me down here? We think you know why. I don't. I haven't any idea. You take me away from my store on a busy day. You put a police guard on it. You insist on bringing me down here. What's it all about? Tell me.
No, you tell us, Mr. Garvey.
Tell you about what?
The jewel robbery 9 months ago, that holdup.
What holdup? My store hasn't been
Talk
robbed.
about your friend, Thomas Ashley.
Ashley? What about him? We think you remember it 9 months ago, parking lot back of the building down on 4th Street. Oh, sure. Some hold-up man slugged him, stole his case of samples. I remember it now. Poor Tom, the thief made a big haul, didn't he?
Unset diamonds, $20,000 worth.
I remember it now. I don't think Tom's gotten over it yet. I was a jewelry salesman for the same company at the time, Same company Tom was working for.
Yeah, we know all that.
Some of the big bosses thought Tom had a hand in it. They figured it was a put-up job. Nothing was further from the truth.
That's so.
Sure, I know Tom. He's a close friend of mine. He wouldn't be mixed up in a deal like that. Tom and I worked out of the same office for years. We've had him over the house for dinner. We've even been on vacations together. He's one of the most honest men I know.
You sure of all this, are you?
Of course I'm sure. And that isn't why you called me down here, is it? You don't think Tom had anything to do with that robbery, do you? You don't think he was in on it?
He had nothing to do with it. I think you know that as well as we do.
Well, then why am I here? There's nothing I can tell you about the holdup. Only what I heard from Tom, what I read in the news.
No, you can tell us a lot more, Garvey. We didn't bring you here just to pass time of day.
Tom was slugged and his sample case of stones were taken. That's all I can tell you.
You're a liar, mister.
What?
You engineered the whole thing. We know it, and so do you.
Was this some kind of a joke? If it is, I think it's in
It's a long way from a joke, Garvey. You planned the job. You got the loot. We can give you chapter and verse.
I really think you're serious. You think I robbed Tom?
We're past the thinking stage, Garvey. We already told you. We know you robbed him.
Now, wait a minute. This thing is ridiculous. The whole idea is ridiculous. I don't know who gave you the so-called information on me, but it's wrong. There's nothing further from the truth.
Nobody gave us the information. We got it ourselves.
You're really serious, are you? I robbed Tom, and you can prove I did.
You're getting the idea.
I don't know what to say. It's fantastic. I robbed my best friend Tom Ashley 9 months ago. I have $20,000 worth of diamonds, and you can prove it.
Every bit of it. What about it?
I think you're out of your mind. My name's George Garvey. You sure I'm the man you want? There couldn't be a mistake?
No, there's no mistake.
This thing would be funny if I didn't think you were serious. Let me ask you just one question. Maybe that'll clear it up for you.
Yeah?
If I held up Tom Ashley, how is it he didn't recognize me?
You know better than that, Garvey.
What?
You didn't hold up Tom Ashley yourself. You had someone do it for you.
Oh, cloak and dagger, huh? I'm afraid this is getting a little too wild for me, Sergeant. Maybe you can waste time making ridiculous charges. I can't. I'm going back to my store.
It's a weak bluff, mister. It's not going to do it.
Excuse me. Are you sure you two men haven't been drinking?
Sit down, Mr. Garvey.
I told you I'm going back to my store.
Sit down.
Look, you have no right to keep me here. These are ridiculous charges. You think I'm one of those cheap hoodlums you're used to dealing with.
No, now come off it, mister. You've got a $5,000 car and a $40,000 home. That doesn't rate you as special treatment. You're a thief, and you know it as well as we do.
I don't have to take this from you.
You haven't got much choice. We just finished 5 months' legwork proving it.
Proving what?
All right, now sit down there. You engineered that holdup. We know who you got to do it. We know how it was carried out. We know how you planned on disposing of the diamonds. We know who your fence was. We know what the split was. We know what you did with part of the money. We know how much you got left.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
What can I say? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Any way you want it, Mr. Garvey.
Maybe you'd like to tell me why I did all this.
You know it better than we do.
No, I mean it. Tell me.
You weren't making enough money at your job to suit yourself. Suit your wife either.
That's pretty good. Marilyn would get a big kick out of that.
All right, fella. We can wait it out as long as you want. We spent 9 months on this already. Another few days aren't going to make that much difference.
Just as a matter of curiosity, how'd you first start off on this tangent? Whatever gave you the idea that I had anything to do with the holdup?
When you started to spend money. New car, new office for yourself, fur coat for your wife, transferred your 2 children to that private school.
And that makes a holdup man out of me because I wanted to send my kids to a better school?
Where'd the money come from? Can you explain that?
Don't you think that's my business, Sergeant, where I get my money, what I do with it?
Not when you get it stealing.
I'm afraid you're going just a little too far. You insist I'm a thief. I'm going to insist you prove it.
All right. Have a look over here, Mr. Garvey.
Yeah?
Some of the reports on the investigation. Reams of them. They cover everything from the time of the jewel robbery up to late yesterday. It's all right there. Everything from the crime report to signed statements.
Well, how would that concern me?
3/4 of the stuff concerns you. Have a look for yourself.
I still can't get it straight in my mind. What makes you think I had anything to do with that robbery?
You know what this is, Mr. Garvey, this machine right here?
No. Some kind of recording apparatus?
That's right. It's a tape recorder.
You've been taking down this conversation, and why?
No, not this one. We've been recording every conversation that took place in your office for the last 4 months, every word.
What do you mean?
Just that, Mr. Garvey. Every time you talked on the phone, every visitor you had, it's all down on tape. 25 reels of it.
Interesting. Is that supposed to frighten me?
No, we don't care if it frightens you or not. Something else here.
Yes?
Reports on what you've been doing for the last 4 months. Daily reports, every movement you made.
That's so.
Everywhere you went, everybody you talked to, everything you did. Want to hear a sample?
This must be some kind of a joke. That's the only explanation I can think of.
May 12th, Thursday. Sergeants Bitteroff and Rafferty. Those are the 2 officers who were tailing you at the time. You checked in at your new office at 9:38 a.m. At 10:03 a.m., you had a visitor, Kenneth Tyson. You talked to him in your office. Conversations recorded. Tyson left at 10:18 a.m. At 10:32 a.m., you left your office.
If you're trying to impress me, I'm afraid it isn't working out very well.
You care for a cigarette, Dorothy?
No, thanks. I have my own.
All right.
Well, I've wasted enough time. Exactly what's the point of all this?
Pretty simple. You're responsible for a robbery. We can prove it. We're giving you the chance to make a statement.
It's nonsense.
Is it?
Of course, people following me, checking everything I do, where I spend my money, where I send my kids to school. What's it all about? It doesn't make any sense.
All right, Mr. Garvey, we've said it before. We can wait it out as long as you want.
Look, let's get this thing straight. Let's go back to the beginning and take it step by step.
That's fine.
The holdup was last fall, wasn't it? Sometime in October?
October 7th, Monday, 5:20 in the afternoon.
All right, now just what am I supposed to have done? None of your vague references about a new coat for my wife or where I send my kids to school. Let's have some facts.
Joe?
All right, Mr. Garvey. You went to work as a jewelry salesman for the company 10 years ago. Your friend Tom Ashley, the victim, started the same year. The two of you have been pretty close friends.
That's right. I told you that.
Now, we'll skip the rest of your background for now. 2 weeks before the robbery on September 24th, you had a meeting with a Kenneth Tyson. You met in the cafeteria on South Broadway. Tyson's 19 years old, lives with an older sister. He works in a gas station on Olympic Boulevard. He's done some work in your car for you. That's how you happen to know him.
Yes, I think I remember the boy. I don't know him well, though. I don't recall the meeting either.
No, you know the boy very well. At the time of the meeting, you promised him $1,000 if he'd hold up your friend Tom Ashley.
Ridiculous.
Tyson agreed to it, and you briefed him on the plan. The following day, you gave him a gun. .32 caliber Smith & Wesson, serial number 362744.
Nonsense. Where did you get that information?
Tyson.
Well, he's lying. Believe me, if he told you that, he's lying. Is he the one who robbed Tom?
October 7th, at your direction, he was in the parking lot behind the Hunter Crosswell building. Tom Ashley came out to get in his car. He had his case of sample diamonds with him. Tyson held him up, slugged him, took the stones, and got away.
Of course, it's obvious. Tyson's trying to say I put him up to it. He's trying to get out of it that way.
Afraid not, Mr. Garvey. Boy couldn't have carried off the holdup by himself.
Well, of course he could. It's obvious he's trying to cover up.
There were 6 people in the company you worked for who knew that on Mondays Ashley always took the case of sample diamonds along when he made his calls. Only on Monday you were one of the people who knew that.
I suppose you've considered the other 5 people.
They were all checked out at the time. They were all cleared, you along with them.
But I'm not clear anymore, is that it? This young hoodlum Tyson, you're willing to take his word over mine?
After the robbery, he took the case of diamonds to you. That was the next day. You paid him $500 and promised him the other $500 when he got rid of the stones.
Oh, I suppose I've gotten rid of them, or do I still have them?
2 months after the holdup, he contacted a fence up in San Francisco. You drove up there and sold him some of the stones, and he broke them up and sold them. We know who he sold them to. We know what he got for him.
Well, this fence, he's supposed to be another good friend of mine?
You're still doing business with him. His name's Fred Lawrence.
It's a new one on me. I don't know any Fred Lawrence. Can't even recall the name.
Well, maybe this will help you, Mr. Garvey. Listen to him on the tape recorder. It's wheel 4, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah, I think so. All labeled there right on the back of the box.
Yeah, here we are.
Well, what's all this about?
Phone conversation, Mr. Garvey. One of the things we recorded from your office. I told you about it before. Let's see. This one was on March 18th.
I always thought wiretapping was against the law, or do you pay any attention to that?
We didn't tap your telephone line. We recorded everything from dictographs we installed in your store and back in your office. They started recording the day you moved in. That was the 1st of March, wasn't it?
I don't know why you're telling me. I can sue you for that, you know. I can sue you for your last dollar.
All we're concerned with right now is Fred Lawrence. And you say you don't know him. Let's have you listen to this. This was recorded March 18th in your office. Okay? Here we go. Go.
Yeah, Marion. Mr. Lawrence? Yeah, sure. Put him on. Hi, Fred. How are you? I'm good. No, everything's fine. No heat at all. Tyson? No, he's all right. Believe me, he's a good kid. Nice. All right, where? Oh, I don't know. It might not be so good if you're sitting down here. Only 8 o'clock, 8:30. Okay, fine. Suppose 8:30 is your minute. Bye, Fred. Bye.
Mr. Garvey, you recognize that? How about it, Garvey?
I understand they can do clever things with tape recorders nowadays. There's a way of piecing words together, isn't there? They can record your voice and then fix the tape, take a simple sentence and change the words around to mean just the opposite.
You can examine the tape if you like. We didn't make a splice in it. All you'll find is the usual factory splice. It's just the way it comes from the manufacturer.
Well, what difference does it make anyway? There's nothing criminal about that conversation. Nothing at all.
You told us a few minutes ago you didn't know Fred Lawrence. You never heard of him on that recording. It sounds like you know him pretty well.
It's a fairly common name, wouldn't you say? Must be quite a few Fred Lawrences. I didn't happen to remember the name right off.
How about Tyson?
What?
Tyson. You told us you didn't know him well at all.
I don't.
Well, it didn't sound that way on that tape, did it?
If
You were telling Lawrence that he was all right. You said, believe me, he's a good kid. Now, what you said, now how about it, mister?
How about what? Is this some kind of a frame? What are you trying to make me say?
We're not going to make you say anything, Garvey. We work robbery detail. That's the job, robberies. They pay us to clean them up.
I can pay you.
What?
Never mind, I didn't mean that. I meant I pay my taxes, I pay your salaries. I help to, anyway. I don't know why I have to be treated like this.
No reason to make a big headache out of this for anybody, Garvey. Now, you engineered a holdup. We can prove that. We're giving you a chance to make a statement. That's all we want here.
I've got nothing to say. Make a statement about what? All you're going on is hearsay, circumstantial evidence. You can't say I planned that robbery.
Well, you admit you know Tyson. You know him well.
I don't. I admit nothing.
What about phone conversation?
It's a fake. They're phoning those things up all the time. You know it as well as I do.
You admitted you know Fred Lawrence. Prove that from the recording.
I admit nothing.
You don't even know Tyson. Is that what you want to say?
I know him, that's all. He worked on my car a couple of times. I don't know him well.
All right, sir. I'd like to play you another recording.
It's a waste of time. I haven't got the whole day to spend here. I got to get back to my store. I've got a business to operate.
Well, this won't take very long. Yeah, here we are. April 5th.
It's a lot of foolishness anyway. How do I know you made those recordings? You could have gotten actors. Maybe you made them up yourself. There weren't any dictographs. You make those things.
There were dictographs, Mr. Garvey. Remember, before you moved into that new suite of offices, you had them redecorated?
Yes.
There were sound technicians from our crime lab out there working side by side with the painters and carpenters. Installed dictographs in your store and back in your offices. They bugged the entire place.
Wiretapping. I'll bring this into court if it's the last thing I do.
Look, now, we already told you, Mr. Garvey, it's not wiretapping. We didn't touch your phone lines. We didn't have to.
Invasion of privacy. I'm going to take this into court.
Yeah, well, let's listen to this recording. Might clear up a few things.
Clear up what? What are you trying to prove?
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, it's coming in here now. Date on this is April 5th.
Yeah, Marion. Who? Tyson? Well, does he know I'm in? Yeah, okay, send him back. Yeah, come on in.
Hi, Mr. Garvey.
Yeah, how are you? Come on in, sit down.
Thanks.
How you doing anyway?
Pretty good. Trying to get a hold of you last week or so. Hard to do, I didn't very much.
Pretty busy, yeah, Tim. This time of year, it keeps you going.
No, I don't want to waste your time. I'd like to know how the deal's working out, though. Going back east to Albany next month, I'd like to get the rest of my money if I could.
Well, just like I told you the last time, Ken, I'm sending the stuff north. I hope to hear in a couple of days.
Yeah, I know. That's what you told me before. It was a pretty heavy job. I could use the money. I mean, if it wasn't so heavy, I wouldn't mind, but I got it coming, I think. Huh?
Of course you do, Ken. There's no question there. It's just that I hadn't got it right now. Believe me, you'd have it in a minute if it was mine again.
Yeah, but that was the agreement, wasn't it? 500 before the job, 500 after, and have them last October. That's a pretty good stretch.
Now, look, Ken, I told you the truth. I just haven't got it. Now, why don't you drop back in a week or so?
How about it, Mr. Garvey? What do you say to that?
It's ridiculous, that's all. It's an obvious fake.
You can look at the tape if you like. Inspect it. You can check every one of those 25 reels. We'll play every one of them for you if you want.
Fakes, and they're bad ones at that. Now, look, I'll give you both a chance. Either you book me in on a charge or else release me. You try booking me in, and I'll sue you for false arrest. I'll break you. I'll sue you blind. I can promise you that.
Yeah?
Release me, and I'll get back to work. I'll forget all about it. Now, you name it. Which one? Book me in or release me?
Oh, that's fair enough. You're going to give us a choice, huh?
You bet it's fair. You could get in a lot of hot water. Now, it's up to you. Which one?
You ran a bad bluff, mister.
What?
We're booking you in.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee to every king-size cigarette smoker.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before August 1st, 1952, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, each king-size Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Switch to Fatima today. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Thursday, 3:55 p.m. Ed Jacobs and I continued questioning the robbery suspect, Ernest Garvey. Despite the evidence at hand, he still refused to admit any knowledge of the $20,000 jewel theft 9 months before. The questioning went on. Garvey's answers became more and more confused. We kept pressing, laying out the case against him step by step. 4 p.m., 4:30. We stayed at it.
You must have taken quite a bit of money, didn't you, Garvey? My wife's new fur coat, new car for yourself. Where'd it come from?
Now, look, there has to be an answer. Where'd that money come from?
Simple. I borrowed it.
Where'd you borrow it?
Some from friends, some from the bank. So I don't see how it concerns you.
How much money did you borrow?
Don't you think that's my business?
Wasn't it about $7,000? Is that about right?
Yeah. No, it was more. Well, what's the difference? It's my business.
You want to grab that folder, Ed? The one with the dark brown. That's it.
Got it.
Complete financial file on you, Mr. Garvey. Took us quite a few weeks getting this together. A lot of work.
You must like snooping in other people's affairs.
No, not especially. It's pretty dull. Here's a copy of your bank statement. It's photostat. It doesn't make much sense.
What do you mean?
Well, we checked your income for that month, amounted to $620.18. Your bank statement here shows you made deposits totaling $760 the same month. Now, how is that possible?
Well, for your information, I made a loan that month. That's probably some of the loan money I deposited. I quit my old job that time. I was going in business for myself. I needed the money to redecorate the new store and the office. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. The photostats of your loan papers right here. The loan was for $2,000. The month before that, February, you'd borrowed from another bank. Let's see, for $3,000. Made another one in April, too. That was for $1,500, different bank again.
That's right. Do we have to go over this line by line?
In 3 months, you made bank loans for $6,500. Besides that, in the same 3 months, you earned a total of $1,713.88. Together, that makes $8,213.88.
What's the point?
Copies of your bank statements, Garvey. You have 5 different savings accounts in 5 different banks. They show from February to April, the same 3 months, you made deposits of more than $11,000. Now, how do you explain that?
Garvey, any explanation?
It's almost 5 o'clock. Can I use the phone? I have to call my wife and let her know.
All right. We'll have to listen in on the extension. Conversation's going to be mine.
Go ahead. I don't care.
Okay. Dial 9 to get an outside line.
Oh,
Photostats are there for you to examine, Garvey.
I see him.
You want to give us an explanation? You only had $8,200. How could you bank $11,000? It had to come from somewhere, didn't it?
Purely a personal matter, that's all. I borrowed $3,000 from a brother of mine who lives back in Minnesota.
You'd already made 3 loans. Why'd you have to borrow from your brother? You mind telling us?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
Well, that still doesn't balance the books, Mr. Garvey. You earned and borrowed $8,200. You got another $3,000 from your brother, you say. That's $11,200. You banked $11,000.
Yes, that's right. You always have to repeat.
That'd leave you with $200. You and your family lived for 3 months on $200? Is that
Why not? That could easily be. A lot of people do it.
Yes, sir, but not your family.
I'm getting sick and tired of this. You're trying to tell me you know my family better than I do, what they eat, what they spend, what it takes to support them.
We've been on this thing for 9 months, Garvey. We've put in a lot of hours. We know your family pretty well. If you like, I'll tell you the last time you ordered steak from the meat market when you paid your gas bill, the last time your wife bought a pair of shoes.
I guess this is standard procedure for you, not threatening people.
We're not threatening you, Mr. Garvey. We're giving you facts.
Here's another file here. It took us over a month to get this one together. Complete record of your expenses from February 1st. Covers February, March, April, May, June.
I hope the police department has a good lawyer, Sergeant. You've got a fair warning.
You say you and your... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I hope the police department has a good lawyer, Sergeant. You've got fair warning. I'm going to sue you for your last hour.
Now, you say you and your family lived 3 months on $200. That doesn't jive with what we've got here. Take a look if you want to. It's
lies, forgeries. It's all lies. I promise you.
Photostat of the receipt for your wife's coat, Garvey. $1,612.34. That includes the tax paid in full. Photostat of the contract for your new car. Down payment, $2,000. Liquor bill for the big party you threw in March 20th. Liquor bill, $387. Catering bill, $194. Full year's check for tuition, room, and board for your kids at the private school you sent them to, $1,864.07. Well, that's only the beginning, Garvey. Comes to a lot more than $200. Have you heard enough?
I better try to get my wife again. I have to let her know.
And you handle the extension, will
All right, yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Dial 9 to get outside, Garvey.
Yeah, I know. talking. I know I'm trying to get her, stupid.
Well, wait a couple of minutes. She'll get through.
Gabbing on the phone all day long, gab on the phone and play cards. That's all she ever does.
Got some more figures here for you, Garvey. Be a good idea if you hear them. Bills for 2 more parties you threw last month. Food bills.
Why do you have to keep pushing that stuff at me? So you've been sneaking around, finding out about my personal affairs. That's supposed to be good police work, is it? This is the
You
kind
carried
of
off a robbery, Garvey. We're giving you a chance to make a statement.
Why should I? What for? Give you a statement and have you twisted around, incriminate me? I haven't had anything to do with this kid Tyson. I better try that call.
No, we'll dial 9 first.
I know. You told me. What's the matter with her? Stupid. She ought to know I'm trying to get her.
What's the matter, Garvey? Don't forget dial 9.
One more recording you ought to hear. I'll just play for you.
I don't want to hear it.
I'll just play for you. I think you ought to hear it.
That's the same reel there. Just fan it over there to that other part, Ed.
All right. Tyson, Mr. Garvey, same place, the office.
But you told me on the phone, you say you had the dope for me today. You said today, sure.
Now, wait a minute, Tyson. I didn't say that at all. I said maybe I'd have it for you. I didn't say definitely. Look, I can't give you what I haven't got.
I want the 500, Garvey. I need it. I stuck my neck out on a robbery job. I get 5 to life.
All right, Ed.
You'd be
Couldn't be any plainer. Now, what do you say?
Wait a minute. Just...
Dial 9.
Yeah. Satisfied. She never could be satisfied. Always more. She always had to have something else.
How do you mean, your wife?
Playing cards, gabbing on the phone, that's all. She just kept writing me day in, day out. I wasn't making enough money. She didn't have any clothes. Kids ought to go to a better school. We ought to have a new house. On and on. I ought to go in business for myself, make money, lots of money. Same thing, all the time. Talk. There's only so much you can take.
You figured the robbery'd solve the problem, is that it?
I guess so. I would have tried anything just to shut her up, get her off my back for a while. I guess you got Tyson out, the other man, too, Fred Lawrence.
Yeah, they were picked up this afternoon. Lawrence at the airport, Tyson and Show downtown, all three, all at the same time.
What about your wife, Garvey? She knew you planned this robbery.
Oh, I didn't tell her. I think she knows, though. Pretty sure she does. Maybe she'll be satisfied now. Lousy money, she had to have it. Didn't even leave me enough to pay off that kid Tyson. Private school for the children, wall-to-wall carpets in the house, new dishwasher, new coat, new car, everything. She just had to have them. You want to take me, book me in? I don't care.
All right. We'll stop off down the hall, take your statement.
Sure, I don't care.
All right, let's go.
Oh, hey, just a minute, huh?
Yeah?
It'll only take a minute. That's what I figured.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On November 4th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I make it a habit to carry 2 packs of Fatimas around with me. One's for my smoking, and the second one's for smokers I see with other king-size cigarettes. All I have to say is, here, compare Fatima. I know they're going to be sold on Fatimas the next time we meet. How about comparing Fatima yourself? You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters, cools the smoke, all for your protection. You get those extra puffs because Fatima is 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Prove it today. Buy Fatima.
Ernest W. Garvey and Kenneth Tyson were tried and convicted of first-degree robbery, 1 count, and received sentences as prescribed by law. Fred Lawrence was tried and convicted of receiving stolen property, 1 count. First-degree robbery is punishable by imprisonment from 5 years to life. Receiving stolen property is punishable by a prison term of not more than 5 years. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Vic Perrin, and Eddie Firestone. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes. Best of all, king-size cigarettes has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. February 18th, hear the Gala City Service Silver Radio Jubilee on NBC.
My name's Regan. I get 10 a day in expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Anthony J. Lyon. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Jack Webb is Jeff Regan, Investigator, as CBS offers you hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of The Lawyer and the Lady.
The Cosmopolitan Building is on 7th Street near Olive, downtown L.A. International Detective Bureau's up on the 3rd floor, Suite 308. Right across from an elevator that hasn't been inspected since 29, when the guy who built the place took a vacation up at Folsom. I always use the stairs. Well, the plaster's bad, but the rent's cheap, and the Lion says his office is just the kind of place that invites business. He's got a leather chair there about the shape of a fallen biscuit. That's for him to relax on. And right next to a desk with some blank checks and an inkwell, there's a hard, straight chair. That's for the client. The Lion got mad when our last customer asked if the chair was wired. Well, when I walked in last Thursday night about 6 o'clock, he was staring at that empty chair. Wishful thinking.
Regan! Christmas is coming.
Well, that's news.
It's the time of year when everybody's nice to everybody else.
Somebody give you a calendar?
I got better than that. It's a check.
From who?
His name's Kramer. He's a big lawyer.
We need one again?
He's our new client. He wants to see you.
What about?
He'll tell you.
You tell me.
I want you to be nice to him. He's a big man. His office is in the Park Central building. Abercrombie, Kramer, and Schmidt.
A trio.
It's an important legal firm in this city.
Well, what's the job?
I told you he'd give you all of it.
Look, the last time I waited for a client to talk, he died.
Now, look here. The kind of dough he pays, you could do janitor work for him and not ask questions.
Oh, you never learn.
This is a certified check. Came by special messenger. He's waiting for you now.
What else?
The messenger said he wanted all this done confidentially. No police. You understand?
You'd kidnap your own mother for cash.
You're not alive.
And then you'd starve to death charging yourself ransom.
I'm going to be patient with you, Regan.
No, this is another rotten deal.
These big legal outfits can't afford to be dishonest.
You've been making a living doing it?
Kramer's in legitimate practice. I checked on
Oh,
him.
sure you do.
I pay your salary, and I take things as I see them.
Well, you need stronger glasses. Well, I left him sitting there holding the check up to the light. He had both arms above his head. He reminded me of a two-armed slot machine. I walked the 4 blocks over to the Park Central building, and an elevator operator with a cardboard collar took me up to the 7th floor. Abercrombie, Kramer, and Schmidt had a flock of stables in the back with a fire escape. The names were hung out in silver. I figured if they were ambulance chasers, they used a motorcycle escort. I opened the door and stepped into a green carpet that needed mowing. Then I heard a noise at the deep end where the trout stream should have been. She had hair the color of smoke. The rest of her spiraled up to match. But she looked unhappy, like a termite in a granite quarry. She glanced at her typewriter, and then up at me. The Remington 1.
We've already ordered our Christmas cards. Get them in July.
Well, maybe I'm not selling.
You should. You're the type.
Kramer in?
He might be. But he never sends cards. Doesn't believe in Christmas.
Well, he sent my office a check.
Did he? What office is that?
I'm Regan, International Detective Bureau.
Stick to greeting cards.
Kramer sent for me.
Oh? He wants protection, huh?
You tell me.
Maybe it's something else.
Well, let's find out.
In a minute. He's busy right now.
What's the matter with Abercrombie?
He's dead.
Schmidt?
Wishes he was. Palm Springs with a hangover.
Yeah, real nice bunch. How long you worked for him?
Too long. My jokes are newer.
Well, Benny's making a move. Maybe he'll hire you.
I don't like funny men. What do you do when you're not working?
All depends on who I'm with.
Thought maybe you were antisocial. That's Kramer's.
I was ahead of her trying the door, but it was locked from the inside. She fumbled around on the desk and finally brought out a key. Kramer was sitting at his desk holding onto the front of his shoulder. His face was white and he wasn't feeling too good.
Fire escape. He got through there. And he called Dr. Sorensen. This wouldn't look good in the papers. No police.
That's a big order.
Well, that's a big hole in his shoulder. Well, it was too late to start looking around the fire escape, and when Dr. Sorensen showed up, he called a private ambulance and had Kramer taken to a private hospital. The doc said he wouldn't be able to talk until morning, and, well, they wanted it quiet. There was no sense getting homicide all excited. Emmy went to the hospital with him, and I hung around the office for a little while. Everything was locked up tight. The files, his desk, and the liquor cabinet. So I figured it was time to give the lion the nod. I doused the lights and went downstairs. Outside, the street was kind of vacant except for a steamroller with whiskers washing down the gutters. It dodged around a big green car parked by the curb, and then it swivel-hipped around my car, where a little guy in a trench coat was leaning in looking at my registration tag. When I tapped him on the shoulder, he looked confused, like he was trying to catch a cyclone on a paper bag. Huh? You looking for something?
Oh, no. No, just,
Looking.
Yeah, that's right. Looking.
Come on, blow your nose.
A little cold, that's all.
Tell me about it before your throat gets sore.
I told you, just looking.
Car belongs to the finance company in case you got extra keys.
No, Pilgrim. Never borrowed a buggy in my life.
You can't drive.
How'd you guess?
Come on, you. Let's pour it out.
Sure. You the guy?
What guy?
Guy that says there. Regan.
I might be.
Don't want to make a mistake.
Deal, will you?
Somebody wants to see you.
Who?
Guy.
Well, I don't know him.
Yeah. Guy says please.
Reads Emily Post.
That's right. Friend of mine. Weighs 285 pounds. He's across the street in the ice cream parlor. Last stool on the end.
Well, I tell you, somebody else is carrying my books home today.
Oh, we wouldn't care. Big man. Gonna see him?
Can't he walk?
Says if you argue, mention the name Kramer. Now you gonna see him?
How can I miss? He weighs 285 pounds. Oh, it didn't figure, but sometimes you look and nothing figures. Kramer had taken one in the shoulder, and before he'd been able to talk, the lights had gone out, and he wound up in a hospital. Well, somebody had an angle, and maybe it was the guy across the street. I found him sitting all alone, about 300 pounds of beard in a plaid coat. He was picking all the strawberries out of his ice cream. Hey, you said for me?
Mm-hmm. Regan?
You got it.
Have something. Great banana split here. 4 kinds of ice cream.
I'm on a diet.
Oh, I never worry about things like that. It's a mistake. You only live once. Know me?
You got a name?
Spec Jameson. You know me now?
You got a grudge with Kramer?
Yeah.
You shot at him from the fire escape.
I did? When?
Half hour ago.
Anybody see me?
No.
That's good. How'd I do?
He got it in the shoulder. He'll live.
Up to that point, it could have been me.
Well, it's going to make a good story for the police.
For anybody. I'm clean as a whistle. You sure you won't have something?
Now, look, I got a date, Fatso. Let's fan this out.
Oh, sure.
How about Kramer?
Oh, yeah. Where'd you say he was?
Hospital.
Oh, yeah. He hire you for protection?
Maybe.
Regan, you got a lot to learn about life.
No, just about living.
You catch on quick.
To what?
Now, you take me, for instance.
Your complexion's not so good.
It'll improve. Besides, I don't like trouble, Regan.
You'll have to get used to it.
It's just there's some things a man can't stand. Can't take lying down.
Name 3.
No, I just want you to understand I know what I'm doing, that's all. And this is what I'm doing. All right, Regan. Back on your feet.
Yeah, they serve ice cream and big dishes,
I'll
don't
give
they?
you a boost. Here's my hand.
Take off the knuckles.
Quiet, Regan. There's some more metal in my pocket.
I don't need a Geiger counter.
I said you were smart. Now get this. It's a clean sweep. You're staying out of it.
Suppose I stick around.
Then I'll unglue you.
I left him sitting there with his ice cream. Wouldn't have done any good to trade fists with him. But there was something in the way he talked about Kramer and the shooting that made it a Sunday puzzle. I found a phone booth and put in a call to the Lion.
Regan, where you been? You see Kramer? What'd he say?
Well, now, which one do you want first?
What about Kramer?
He was all shot up.
Target practice?
Some guy with a grudge.
If he plays like that, yell cop.
Look, they'll want to see you. No police, remember?
What are you talking about?
Another bum client.
Why do these things always happen to me?
Because your palm is faster than your brain.
Every case has it.
Look, this is a 3-ring circus, and we haven't even got any peanuts.
Well, maybe I should have found out what he wanted.
Oh, you say that now.
Who's got the grudge?
A sweet tooth. Calls himself Spec Jameson.
Spec, where's he fit in?
He wouldn't stand still to show me his tea leaves.
You talked to?
We met.
When people start asking questions, we don't want to be stuck without any answers. You get out and run down some dope on this man Spec.
What are you going to do?
Don't worry, I'll take care of my end.
Yeah, most people do. Well, this job had more ups and downs than the Berlin airlift. I turned the phone book over to some drunk with a beer breath, and I walked over a couple of blocks to the morgue. I mean, the one where they keep dead newspapers. I got a friend who works in the file room of the L.A. Times. After 15 years of it, he's got about as much adrenaline as an old magazine in the attic.
Nope. No, I never heard of a Spec Jameson. Probably a nickname, isn't it? You know, Spec, short for glasses?
Yeah, I caught the drift.
Thought I was going to say spectacles, didn't you?
Hey, look, let's try this for size.
Yeah.
Big, fat guy, but always hungry.
Mention any friend?
Kramer, and he wasn't a friend.
Spec Adams in last Thursday's paper.
What'd he do?
Executed the same day in Sing Sing.
Spec Jameson.
Uh-huh. Released from Quentin day before yesterday.
Let me see.
That's all it says. Served full 10-year sentence, continuous on 4 counts.
Somebody threw a book at him.
Yeah, maybe. Tell you in a minute.
Try December 38.
This case would have come up in November. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, you take these.
Yeah.
Hey, look at the funny skirts. Short, weren't they? Hey, here's one. War impossible, says
Look,
Bennett.
let's stick to the subject.
November 17th, Jameson appeal denied.
Read it, man.
A lot of stuff. He was in the rackets.
Go on.
Judge said unusual completeness of prosecution's case made retrial impossible. Continuous sentence upheld.
Who was the judge?
Old Govern, he's dead. Here's what you want. Special Prosecutor Joseph W. Kramer.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Joseph W. Kramer was brilliant relentless work for the forces of good in Los Angeles.
It's for you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah?
Mr. Regan?
Yeah.
This is Emmy, Mr. Kramer's secretary. Are you always this hard to find?
Well, that depends on where you look.
Mr. Kramer wants to see you.
You talking now?
He's feeling much better. The doctor said it was just a flesh wound.
What kind?
38.
All right. Where's the hospital?
It's a little place on Hawthorne. Mrs. Kramer will show you. If you don't mind going by the Biltmore and picking her up.
I haven't got my car.
Use Mr. Kramer's. It's in the garage there.
Is she expecting me?
I phoned.
15 minutes.
Good. He wants to thank you for what you did.
Well, what'd I do?
Kept the police out of it.
It's his show, but it may close.
What do you mean?
I ran into Spec Jameson.
Oh?
Now, you still want the police out of it?
I don't know. Mr. Kramer will tell you when he sees you.
You sound like you're changing jobs. So I went over to the garage and I picked up his car and then I drove to the hotel entrance. While I was arguing with the cab driver, Mrs. Kramer walked out. 45, a little tired around the eyes. She was wearing a white sheet, double bed size, under a mink coat that must have set somebody back $10,000. She didn't look like a wife that Kramer had had.
I hope this isn't inconveniencing you.
No, it's not.
Are you sure my husband's all right?
He's talking, according to Emmy.
Emmy. She's there with him.
She's his secretary.
Funny, isn't it? I'm his wife, yet she spends more time with him than I do.
Well, that's business.
Even now, when he's been hurt, she's there first.
She was there when it happened.
Of course. I guess I... Oh, never mind. You're a detective, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Kramer hired you to protect him from that Jameson.
I never found out. Maybe.
I've been so worried about him. At the trial, Jameson said he'd kill him if it was the last thing he ever did. You know, I always thought it was taking an awful...
Hey, take it easy, lady.
You know the story.
Emmy?
She's young, pretty. I have to spend my time at bridge fight.
Does it help?
No.
How long you been married to him?
Next month, 18 years. I don't look the same way anymore.
Neither does he.
Funny what life does to you, isn't it? I was his secretary. Once. That's how I met him.
Look, how far to the hospital?
It's only a few more blocks. You go straight
Hang
down.
Who do you know that drives the big green Nash?
No one.
Well, he knows us. Been following us since we left the hotel.
What do you say?
Is he still with us?
Yes. I can't understand a thing like this happening. Why would anybody want to follow us?
Maybe it's a friend of your husband's.
Jameson?
He tried once tonight. Maybe it'd be better to get you.
I'm scared.
Come on, get out.
Mr. Regan!
The green Nash had been tailing me. I shook it on the last corner. There are lots of them, but it might have been the same one that was parked by my car downtown earlier. Oh, it made no sense, but I wasn't taking any chances. Only before I could get the door open, the Nash came sliding around the other side of the block. I shoved Mrs. Kramer into the floorboards and slid into the room. A lot of glass got broken fast. By the time I could separate my teeth from the clutch pedal, the car had gone. I shook Mrs. Kramer, but she didn't shake. She was dead.
You are listening to the story of The Lawyer and the Lady, tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Listen, this is good news. Good news for you if you're between the ages of 20 and 26 and a half, married or single, a high school graduate, and want to fly for the United States Air Force. Yes, the Air Force Aviation Cadet Program is offering you the opportunity to become a pilot officer in the mightiest Air Force in history. You can be one of the Air Force's men of renown. And there's more offered than the pride you feel in being a member of America's flying team. For after your 52 weeks of training, you'll graduate as a second lieutenant in the Air Force with an income of more than $300 per month. Remember, the Air Force offers you what it offered General Jimmy Doolittle, General Carl Spaatz, and General Hoyt Vandenberg. Now, at 42, the Air Force Chief of Staff. Call at your local Army and Air Force recruiting station tomorrow. Apply to become an aviation cadet. And now, back to the story of The Lawyer and the Lady and Jeff Regan, Investigator.
Well, it all made sense, like a you-bangy with a piccolo. It started when the Lion sent me over to see a lawyer named Kramer. I got there just in time to meet Emmy, his receptionist, and find Kramer with a bullet in his shoulder. The hospital took over, and I left. That's when I ran into Spec Jameson, an ex-con who Kramer put away some 10 years ago. He turned out to have a lot of stomach and a big hate for the lawyer. And then I got a call from Emmy to pick up Mrs. Kramer. I did, and the shots began, and she ended up a candidate for the city morgue. Well, I called homicide, and I sent out some boys to clean up. I gave them what I knew, and I moved on out to see Kramer. The Angels of Mercy Hospital turned out to be a private place off Hawthorne. 2 stories of cement set down in the middle of a clover field. It figured that they only held a thermometer to patients that could make a big noise with a cash register. Kramer showed in an upstairs room next to a fire escape. He was climbing into an overcoat. And when he saw me, he looked unhappy, like a pointer with a broken tail.
Well, Regan, I'm glad you came to see me.
Tell me that later.
What do you mean?
How's the shoulder?
Oh, a little annoying, but it's all right.
Well, that figures.
Why?
It was a neat shot, just enough to raise a little fever.
What are you driving at?
Give it a chance. It'll sink in.
Come on, let's get out of here.
All right.
Pick up my wife downtown?
Yeah.
Good. She worries a lot. You know, tell you what, Regan, I'll send a check around in the morning for another 100. That all right?
Make it 1,000.
What's that for?
Insurance against guys like you.
Never mind that, Regan.
Why didn't you tell the lion what you wanted in the first place?
I didn't know.
I got another story.
Well, you're wrong.
You knew Spec Jameson was out.
No reason I should tell you that.
I'm rehearsing a witness, that's all.
What?
Yeah, now let's hear what you did to him.
Nothing, not a thing. He can tell you that.
In 38, you got the book thrown at him.
He was a public enemy.
So's Smog.
Regan, a man in my position...
Maybe that's it. Maybe you're the kind of shyster that builds a rap on convictions.
Well, grant you would help. That's all you want.
So he hated you.
He made threats.
What cooled him off?
$10,000.
When?
After I discovered he meant business, I sent someone with the money.
Figured Jameson forget everything for cash.
Men of his stripe always will.
Well, you made a mistake.
Everybody does sometimes. I guess Jameson is still using his gun.
No.
But my shoulder will mend.
Your wife won't.
What do you mean?
She's dead.
No.
Homicide will tell you different.
I'd better go down to see them.
Yeah.
That bullet was meant for me.
Yeah, like you said, everybody makes mistakes. Well, we climbed in the taxi and headed for headquarters. Kramer looked confused. He mumbled a few words about what a good cook his wife had been, and how he'd always tried to protect her from the stuff that he'd done to make a success. He was the kind of guy that always figured it was better to make a deal than face facts. Now he had to face a backfire. Well, there were a couple of newspaper photographers in front of the place. Kramer's shoulders dropped a couple of notches, then he headed for inside. I started in behind him, but an arm stopped me.
Regan, come here.
What are you doing out of bed?
Sit down. Get back in the taxi.
Look out, that meter will bite you.
I'm not paying the fare. Downtown, driver. Okay, Mac.
You know the cops are going to love you for this.
They can hear your side of it later.
Sure, and you'll stand behind me.
Now, Regan, I'll tell you how I figure this. She gets killed. It was a mistake.
Oh, now, that takes a big brain.
Kramer's got enemies. Said enemy didn't the wife Regan to get Kramer.
That's the last chapter.
And we'd like the next one. Turn in said enemy, and we'll pick us up a nice fat reward.
Homicide started with Jameson already.
They're going to be surprised.
What do you mean?
He didn't do it.
How do you know?
I look into things. That's how I know.
Well, all right, big shot. Open it up.
It goes this way. 15 minutes after I talked to you, I put a call into the cops.
Saying what?
That I don't like my operator being threatened by ex-cons. What happens?
You tell me.
The police themselves take Jameson out of circulation. He was locked up before Mrs. Kramer got found. He's sitting in the Hollywood station house right now with a smile on his face.
Talking?
No. Eating ice cream.
Well, now it really made sense, like a mermaid on a bicycle. If Jameson didn't throw the lead, I had to find out who did. The taxi dropped me off downtown across from the Park Central building, and I started up the elevator to Kramer's office. It figured to be the time to get a look inside that locked desk. When I opened the door marked Abercrombie, Kramer, and Schmidt, the place was dark. I moved into Kramer's office and started a little work on the desk. It took me about 10 minutes to get inside. Nothing showed in the first 2 drawers, but in the third, I picked up a box of Panatellas and I looked under it. That's where I found a .38 with 1 bullet missing. Well, ballistics could do something about it, so I crammed it in my overcoat pocket and I started outside. That's when the door opened and the little guy with the runny nose walked in. He was wearing a suit the color of an avocado and his face looked like a fried banana.
It's a nice rug, huh?
You from the cleaners?
I make my own spots. Sit down, Regan. We're going to talk.
I'll take it standing.
We prefer you sitting.
It's your gun.
More natural that way.
You got a name, Buster?
They call me the Dove.
The bird.
No cracks. Just the Dove.
Peace mission?
It is. Rested.
All right, what is it this time?
Where's Kramer?
China.
Regan, you're an unlucky contestant.
If you don't like my answers, try somebody else.
That's what I'm doing, correcting mistakes.
Like shooting the wrong guy.
Like leaving a witness. Had to get rid of my Nash on account of you.
You killed her, now you're waiting for her husband.
Of course I killed her, but don't try to change the subject. See what I'm talking about now.
Well, I don't like the spotlight.
You should have stuck your nose in here, Regan. It'll bleed.
Let's start with yours. I dove for him, and the gun went off, only it wasn't pointed at me. Kramer was standing in the doorway, pulling a trigger like a kid at a bubblegum machine. I figured the floor was safer, so I flattened out. The Dove tried the same, only he hit the wastebasket.
Did I get him?
Well, he looks as dead as he'll ever be.
A cheap murdering...
Look, let me hold the gun, huh, Kramer?
Yes. Oh, Regan, there's a bottle in the cabinet there.
Sure. Here you are.
Thank you.
What are you going to do now?
I don't know. Call the police, I guess.
I thought you were with them.
I came down in their car to get some of my files.
On the old Jameson case?
Yes.
You want to tell me?
Oh, it's about as you know. He was a small-time grifter. I gave myself a big name by prosecuting him, built my business and the reputation it gave me.
You told the police why he hates you?
Oh, yes. I intend to stand trial for killing this man.
You're growing up, Kramer.
Who was he, anyway?
The Dove.
No driver's license. Oh, yes, here it is. Dove Duval. Regan, look at this.
That's a lot of money.
It's $10,000. Same amount of money I sent to Jameson to stay away from me. Looks like the chickens came home to roost, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Well, police are waiting. I'd better go and tell them about this.
Go on.
You coming?
No, I'll meet you there, Kramer. I got a late date. I gave the boys downstairs the high sign, then I moved out of there fast. I found Emmy's place just off Normandy. It was a brand-new duplex with a gilt-edged driveway and stocks and bonds for awnings. For a business girl, she really did all right. I was a couple of hours overdue, but the girl with the smoky hair knew how to wait. There was a candle burning in her window and 2 more in her eyes. It took me a little time.
But now you're here.
Uh-huh.
Well, aren't you going to do something about it?
Yeah. Talk.
Mr. Regan, what's the matter with you?
I've been working hard.
Oh, is that all?
Now listen, lady. This is just too packed, too neat. The ends tied together like Siamese twins.
I'm alone.
Yeah, but you don't want to be. Your boss just rubbed out a killer named Dove.
What?
It was self-defense. I'm a witness, and he'll be out of it inside a week.
Well, then what are we bothering about?
A guy named Jameson. Nobody will believe him.
Why should they?
Because they didn't hire the Dove.
Who did?
You.
Oh, Mr. Regan.
All right, maybe it was your boss. He primed me with a story about giving Jameson 10 G's. Only one ever saw that dough was the Dove.
Well?
That was his price for killing Mrs. Kramer.
You're out in left field, Mr. Regan. I was working.
You were keeping me outside till Kramer could throw a small bullet into his shoulder.
Why would he do that?
To point up that Jameson was still after him.
But he was.
I figured different. And homicide's going to like my way.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, this gun has a different version.
Where'd you get it?
Kramer's bottom drawer. And the caliber is going to fit the hole in your boss's shoulder.
Well, that's it. You've got it all now.
Yeah. You know, you got a real nice hair.
Yeah?
That San Quentin water's going to ruin it. Well, the whole thing came apart like a paper hat in a shower bath. Seems that when Jameson got out of prison and threatened Kramer, the lawyer and his secretary figured that it was a good time to get rid of the wife. I suppose she interfered with their skiing or something. Anyway, they hired the Dove to do the job and then got rid of him just so he couldn't ever come to bat for the fall guy, Jameson. Yeah, they had a perfect frame fixed for him, and I was picked to decorate the edges, only it didn't work. Everybody was positive about this one. Kramer knew he was going to win. Emmy knew she was in for a big cut. And the Lion knew he was going to collect a fat fee. They should have all figured it. This is the year for upsets.
Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan with Herb Butterfield as Anthony J. Lyon. It's CBS at the same time next week for more hard-boiled action and mystery with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Written by Jackson Gillis and D. Jack Newman. Produced by Sterling Tracy. Featured in tonight's story were Carol Matthews, Marvin Miller, Lou Krugman, Herb Vigran, Mary Lansing, and Larry Dodkin. Original music for this program is by Milton Charles. This is Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Juvenile Division. A steady supply of obscene literature is finding its way into a half a dozen high schools in your city. You get a lead on one of the sources of supply. A 17-year-old high school senior. Your job? Pick him up. Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Now, best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, November 8th. It was windy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Juvenile Division. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Stein. My name's Friday. It was 11:05 a.m. when we got to the basement floor of Gorman High School. The locker room.
Which way, Steve? You want to show us which locker's yours?
You still haven't told me what this is all about.
Routine check, son.
Yeah, but why do you have to pick on me? Why do you have to see my locker?
We're not picking on you, Steve. Now, how about it? Which locker's yours?
Right here. This is mine, 318. Here's the key.
No, you open it, Steve.
Just a couple of personal things of mine, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll open it. Well, there you are. See for yourself.
Want to take your things out of the locker, son?
You can see what's in there, can't you? My gym stuff. A couple of textbooks.
How about digging back in the corner, left-hand side there?
Where?
You know where I mean. Come on, Steve, dig them out.
Back here, you mean? These joke books?
That's right. Let's have a look, huh?
Why? Just a couple of joke books. A kid gave them to me.
Bring them out, Steve.
Okay. Just a couple of them. Kid gave them to me. There.
Looks like more than a couple.
That's what you call a joke book, Steve?
That's what the kids call them, yeah. Some of them are a little dirty. Not so bad, though.
They're filthy, Steve, and you know it. Now, where'd you get them?
I told you. Kid gave them to me.
Who? What's his name?
Oh, some kid around school. I don't remember right now.
Gave you these books for nothing?
Sure. I had a couple he wanted. We traded off. A lot of the kids have them. They trade them around.
That stack you got there, they look pretty new. Couldn't have been passed around much.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Matter of fact, they look brand new, don't they? Don't even look like they've been opened yet.
How come you're rousting me on this thing? What about the other kids? They got them, too.
They're buying them, Steve. They're not selling them.
I'm not selling them. Anybody says that's a liar.
No good, son. We talked to the fellas here at the high school. Some kids over at the junior high school, too. They all say you're the one who's selling them.
Well, they're liars.
Both the fellas in high school and the kids down the street in junior high. They said you've been selling this stuff for months. Now, how about it?
They're lying, that's all. They don't know what they're talking about.
You've been selling these 35 cents a piece, 3 for $1. Last couple of weeks you've been peddling pictures, too, $1 a piece. You got any of them in your locker, Steve?
A couple. I got them off another kid.
What other kid? What's his name? What's his name?
Some kid. I don't remember.
It's not much of an answer, son.
What do you want from me anyway? I told you I'm not selling the books. I don't care what those other goofs say. It's my word against theirs.
Now, maybe you ought to get this straight, son. We're not out to get you. You're way down the line. We want the people at the top, the men who print this junk, the wholesalers, the big distributors.
So why ask me? I don't know anything about it. Nothing.
You don't want to cooperate, is that it?
What am I supposed to cooperate about? I'm not mixed up in anything.
We think you are, son. We know you are. Who are you selling this for? Where do you get your supply?
All you see is what's in my locker. I ain't selling. I don't have any supply. You gotta go far to prove I have.
Not very far, Steve.
What?
From about here to your home. 11:38 a.m. After picking up his supply of obscene books and photographs to be booked later as evidence, Ed and I drove the subject, Stephen Banner, to his home approximately a mile from the high school. His apprehension and our theory that he probably kept the bulk of his supply of books and pictures at or near his home was no accident. For weeks we'd known that a steady stream of pornography was being fed into a half a dozen high schools and junior high schools throughout the city. Books, photographs, pictures, and pamphlets of the worst kind. Because of embarrassment on the part of the curious teenage kids who bought the stuff, it wasn't easy to pick up a solid lead. After weeks of observation and questioning, we finally narrowed down the principal source of supply to a single teenage boy, Stephen Banner. Even then, we knew he must be only one of 100 small-time distributors working for the persons directly responsible for manufacturing this sort of thing. Our only hope was that he'd be willing and able to supply us with the names of the persons responsible. When we got to Stephen Banner's home, where he lived with his sister and brother-in-law, we searched it thoroughly, but we found nothing. Both his sister and brother-in-law were at work. We went back and started checking through the garage at the rear of the house.
Joe, back here in the corner?
Yeah.
Have a look. Steve, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah.
These books here? These pictures, case full of them?
Yeah.
Well, how about it, son? Your sister and brother-in-law know about this?
No, they don't know anything. I didn't think you'd find them.
Well, you ready to tell us about it?
My sister going to have to find out?
I don't know, Steve. It's going to be pretty hard to keep it from her.
Yeah, I guess so.
Who's the contact, son? Where'd they come from?
Charlie Freiberg. Only the books, though. Pictures came from another guy. It's a long story.
Well, we got the time, son. Who is this Freiberg?
Met him downtown one Sunday. Penny Arcade on Broadway. Me and this other kid were in there, Bud Spencer. Freiberg came up, started to talk to us.
All right, go on.
He finally took a couple of these books out of his pocket, gave them to us. He wanted to know what we thought of them. Told us he had plenty of them, and we knew any other kids who wanted them.
You knew you and your friend Bud were in high school?
Yeah, that's right.
What else, Steve?
Well, that's about it. He asked me and Bud if we wanted to sell for him around school.
This friend of yours, Bud Spencer, he's selling them too?
Yeah. He goes to a different school, though. Both of us did pretty good with the books. Sold real fast. The pictures are even better.
That's so. You say you didn't get the pictures from Freiberg. There was somebody else?
A man by the name of Jack. I don't know his last name. Freiberg put us onto him, gave us an introduction, set up the deal. We got the pictures for 75 cents. Most of the time they get us $1, $1.50 a piece. Bud and I did pretty good.
You know any other fellows working for this Freiberg, Steve? Any other kids in school, I mean?
No, just Bud and me. That's all I know. It wouldn't be so bad if it were just the books. That lousy Charlie. He had to go and promote the party routine, get everybody mixed up in that.
What do you mean? What's that all about?
Charlie. He stays at this place out on Sepulveda. It's a motel. That's where we always contacted him.
Yeah.
After a couple of weeks, when we got to know him, he asked me and Bud out to this place. Said he was going to throw a party. Told us to bring our girlfriends along. Turned out we were the only ones at the party. Me and Bud and the girls and Charlie Freiberg. Party lasted pretty late. I should have been smart enough to figure it out. I wasn't.
What do you mean, Steve? Figure out what?
Why'd Charlie be throwing parties just for us? The first 2 times there wasn't anything wrong. We just talked, danced with the girls, drank some beer. Charlie told us to have a good time. He threw a party every Friday night. Never broke up till after 3 o'clock.
How old are your girlfriends, yours and Bud's?
17. They're both 17. They've been around, though. No use kidding you. They weren't very smart, I can tell you that. None of us were, I guess. Next couple of parties, Charlie had whiskey there. Dumb girls drank right along with him. So did we.
Freiberg served the whiskey, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. He loaded the drinks, kept handing the girls a lot of stuff about how he used to be a director in pictures. He had a lot of connections in Hollywood. The last party I was at, he said he was going to get the girls' screen test. A lot of malarkey like that.
Mm-hmm. What else, Steve?
I don't know. I had a beef with Charlie about it. I walked out. I haven't been back since.
Does he still throw these Friday night parties, do you know?
Maybe. I don't know. There were 3 or 4 after the last one I walked out on. Dumb girls think Charlie's just great. God, so I can't stand the guy.
How about the parties you didn't show up for, Steve? You get a rundown on them?
Well, I heard a couple of things, yeah. Sure glad I wasn't there.
How do you mean?
Dumb girls never fails. The oldest line in the world. They still go for it.
What's that?
Tell them you're going to get them in the movies.
We continued questioning the subject, 17-year-old Stephen Banner. He gave us a full description of the man who'd been selling him the books, Charles Freiberg, and also a description of the man known as Jack, the one who'd been supplying him with pictures and photographs. In addition, he gave us the addresses of the 2 men, a fair description of Freiberg's car, no license number, and the names and addresses of the 2 girls he and his friend had taken to Freiberg's parties. 1:20 p.m. Ed and I took the case of obscene books from the garage, loaded it in the back seat of our car, and Stephen Banner directed us to the high school attended by his friend Bud Spencer. We picked up the Spencer boy and drove him and Banner downtown to Georgia Street Juvenile, where we booked them in on 700B, Welfare and Institution Code, lack of supervision. We drove to the motel out on Sepulveda, but the suspect, Charles Freiberg, had moved out 5 days before, no forwarding address. It wasn't a dead end, though. From his motel registration card, we got the description and license number of his car. On the way into the office, we checked out the address of his confederate, the man known as Jack. He'd moved the same day as Freiberg, no forwarding address. Back at the office, DMV got a make on the license number for us. The car registered in Freiberg's name, 239 West 92nd Street. We went down to R&I and pulled the package on the suspect. 3:40 p.m.
Last address on was 3 years old. How's his record read?
Well, he's been in the business before. A couple of ag charges, a 311 charge, too. Possession of obscene literature.
Served 8 months in county jail. Mugshot there?
Yeah, here.
Mm-hmm. Close enough to the way the boy described him.
I'd say so. His M.O., too.
Yeah?
Same pitch the last time they got him, working the high school trade. Passed himself off as a studio man, movie director.
How about the other man, Jack? You got anything there?
No, not yet. I gave the information on him to the stats office. They're going to make a run for us. Well, I guess we better check on the kids' girlfriends, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Get their stories.
Yeah, I suppose so. It sure gets me, Joe.
What's that?
Very young girls like that, out at motel parties till 3 a.m. drinking.
Yeah.
17-year-olds, no reason for it, no reason at all.
Well, I can think of one that might do.
Huh?
Their parents. We checked out the suspect's address furnished us by DMV and also the information from the R&I package. They went nowhere. We had a second interview with Stephen Banner and his friend Bud Spencer. We showed them Freiberg's mugshot and both of them identified it. We got out a broadcast and an APB on him. 4:12 p.m. Together with policewoman Doreen Statesel, Ed and I drove out to interview the 2 teenage girls involved, a Dorothy Ryan and a Laura Osborne. We stopped at the home of the Osborne girl first, but she wasn't there, and neither were her parents. An older sister told us that both the mother and father were working and that Laura was at a neighborhood school for models taking her weekly lesson. We checked at the modeling school, a converted second-floor social hall, where we finally located the girl, a tall brunette, dark eyes, fair complexion. The heavy makeup didn't do much to hide her age. While the modeling lesson went on, policewoman Statesel, Ed, and I talked to the girl off in one corner of the hall.
Your friend, Steve Banner, he took you to those parties at Mr. Freiberg's place?
That's right. Very nice man. He was always nice to Dorothy and me. Dorothy Ryan, she came to the parties with Bud. He's a friend of Steve Banner's.
You have no complaint to make about this, Mr. Freiberg? He never caused you trouble of any kind?
Charlie? Well, no. I told you before that business about Steve getting mad just because Charlie told us he'd get us in the movies. Well, it was silly, that's all. Plain silly. Charlie was just helping us.
How do you mean, Laura?
Well, he's in Hollywood, you know, Charlie Freiberg. He has lots of connections. He just wanted to help us get some good modeling jobs. That's why he took our pictures. There was nothing wrong.
You continued going to these Friday night parties without the 2 boys, is that right?
Yes, Dorothy and me. There wasn't anything wrong with it. We knew Charlie as well as they did by that time. A few bathing suit pictures, that's all. There was nothing wrong in that.
Did you ever see prints of any of those pictures, either you or Dorothy Ryan?
No, but Charlie's going to get us some. He promised he would.
You know where he is now?
No, he moved. I haven't any idea where he is.
When's the last time you saw Freiberg, miss?
About 10 days, 2 weeks ago. What's this all about, officer? You looking for Charlie?
How does he usually contact you, Laura? By phone?
Yeah, usually calls.
Has he called you lately?
Well, I don't know. Why are you looking for him? Can't you tell me?
Routine investigation, miss.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know where Charlie is. Why can't you tell me why you want him?
We want him.
Why? Can't you give me a reason?
This is one of the reasons, Laura. Would you look at this picture?
Charlie took this?
It's his business, Laura. That's the way his police record reads.
I can't believe it.
That's one reason we want Freiberg. There's lots of others. You willing to help us, Laura?
You said they'd be beautiful, glamorous. They're not.
You know where he stays now?
No, I'll find out, though.
How do you mean?
I've got a date with him. Supposed to meet him out on Wilshire and La Brea.
When's that?
8 o'clock tomorrow night.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee to every king-size cigarette smoker.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before August 1st, 1952, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, each king-size Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Switch to Fatima today. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
November 8th, Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. After our interview with 17-year-old Laura Osborne, policewoman Doreen Statesel, Ed and I drove to the home of Laura's girlfriend, Dorothy Ryan, who was also present at the motel parties given by the suspect, Charles Freiberg. Her story of what had happened was essentially the same as the one we got from the Osborne girl. That night, we met with the parents of both girls. They were well-meaning and cooperative. They admitted their mistake. It was the same old story of lack of supervision and very little home life. The parents told us that they had no idea of what had been going on or the late hours that their teenage girls had been keeping. Besides promising closer supervision of the girls, they told us they would notify us immediately if the suspect Freiberg made any attempt to contact their daughters. 6:25 p.m. We got back to the office, put in a call to Stephen Banner's home, and notified his sister and brother-in-law that the boy was being held for further interrogation. We also notified the parents of Bud Spencer. The following morning, Ed and I went across the street to the district attorney's office, presented our case, and a warrant was issued on Charles Freiberg for 702 WIC, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. At 7 o'clock that night, Ed and I staked out on a cocktail lounge near the intersection of Wilshire and La Brea, the place where the suspect had told Laura Osborne to meet him. 7:30, 7:45. We waited.
Think maybe we're in business, Joe.
What?
Down the corner there, waiting for the signal to change. Dark suit, dark hat.
Yeah, could be.
Crossing over now, heading for the bar.
All right, let's go.
No mistake.
Hey, fella, hold it up on that, will you? How's that? Police officer, is your name Freiberg?
What? No, that's not my name.
It's your identification, please.
Yes, I've got my identification. Why?
Can we see it, please?
Why, what do you want?
Your identification.
What for? I haven't done anything.
Let's go, mister. Talk about it downtown.
Now, wait a minute. Just a minute. I don't want any trouble. I'll show you. There. Driver's license. The rest of my stuff.
Charles Freiberg. It's an old address, isn't it?
Yeah. Haven't had time to change it. Just got back in town. What's the matter, anyway?
Where are you staying, Freiberg?
No place. I just got back in town. I told you that. Not staying any place yet. No connections at all.
Where's your car?
I don't have one. Haven't had one for a year. I sold it. Look, how about filling me in? What do you want with me?
You want to step over here, Freiberg, out of the way?
All right. Just like to know what's going on, that's all.
I'd like to see what you're carrying in your pockets. Pick everything out, please, one pocket at a time.
What is this, a shakedown?
You can start with your coat pockets.
All right. There. Okay.
All right, now the other one.
Okay.
You said you don't have a car, Freiberg.
No, of course not. I told you that.
What are you doing with that parking ticket? We walked the suspect Freiberg 2 blocks to the parking lot listed on the claim check that he had in his coat pocket. He had black hair streaked with gray, looked to be in his mid-50s. We questioned him on the way, but he'd admit nothing. We located his car in the parking lot and searched it. In the glove compartment, besides a half a dozen photographs and small books, we found a key with a metal disc attached to it. Stamped on the disc were the words West Side Studios, number 23. Freiberg refused to identify the key. He refused to admit a thing. We walked him back to our car, and together the 3 of us headed out for the old West Side Studios just off Jefferson Boulevard. On the way, we tried again to question the suspect, but we got nowhere. He refused to answer even the simplest questions. One look at the West Side Studios, and you knew right away the place had seen better days. It had been fairly prominent in the early days of motion picture making, but all that was left now was 2 square blocks of broken-down scenery, 1 dilapidated sound stage, and a row of weather-beaten cottages, the tar paper peeling off the roofs. We got out of the car and started up the walk. The faded sign over the main gate read West Side Studios, founded 1920. And down in one corner, admission by pass only. The guard shack at the gate was boarded up. No sign of a night watchman. We kept walking.
How come they don't keep a watchman at the gate, Freiberg? Don't they make pictures here anymore?
You bet they do. The place has been going downhill for a long time. It's coming back, though.
Then you do know the place, is that right?
Yeah, I know it. I should know it.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing.
You rent an office here, is that it? Freiberg?
Yeah, that's right. Straight down the way there, Cottage 23.
What's your job? You in some kind of movie work?
Yeah, have been for 30 years. More than 30 years.
That's so? You an actor?
Freiberg. Haven't you ever heard the name? I'm a producer.
Oh, I see.
Why don't you tell us that to start with?
Oh, I don't know. Different reasons. I don't like to throw my weight around. I have a lot of connections in Hollywood, you know.
That's so?
In the trade 30 years. I was one of the first. You can make a lot of friends in 30 years.
Yeah, I guess so. How about those books we found in your car, those pictures? How do you explain them?
This studio will be back on its feet in a year. I'll bet $1,000 on it. This whole block here is sound stages. I got the plans for them in my desk.
That's so. You have an interest in this lot?
Not exactly. Not right now, anyway. I did have an interest, though. I will again. I was one of the original owners, you know.
Still haven't got an explanation. How about the books and pictures we found in your car?
Oh, that? Nothing to explain, is there? Just a few gimmicks I picked up.
You know a boy by the name of Stephen Banner?
Banner? No, I don't think so. Why?
How about Bud Spencer? You know him?
No. I knew a George Spencer once. Actor. That was back in the old days, though.
How about Laura Osborne, Dorothy Ryan? You know them?
No, it's pretty hard to say. You know, Sergeant, over the years in this business, especially, you meet an awful lot of people.
Well, these are fairly recent. You ought to remember them. They're just kids, 17-year-olds.
No, afraid I don't recall the names. Soundstage Bell. We got a company over there doing some shooting tonight. Television films. They make them too fast. Trade's not like it used to be. Quality, that's what we went after. Gone now. It's all gone. West Side will do it again, though. You can bet on that. We're coming back.
Look, how about leveling, Freiberg? You know why we picked you up. You know why we're out here.
Just it. I don't know why. Oh, say, look across the road. That shed over there. The old greenhouse there. Colonial mansion. Weather's faded the colors a little. Typical old southern estate now, you know. We shot some beautiful footage there. Picture's a classic in its own right. Maybe you remember it. Moonlight and Magnolias. They changed the title later. Love in the Moonlight. Beautiful thing. You ever see it?
No, I don't think so.
I couldn't tell you how many beauties we turned out that year. I was a young fellow then. Song and strife. Moonlight and Magnolias. Little orphan girl. Sweetheart at the campus.
That's your cottage there, Mr. Freiberg?
What's that?
Just down the way there. Number 23.
Oh, yeah. Completely forgot about it. I hope you'll excuse the way it looks. I haven't been able to find good accommodations in town. I've been staying at the office. We have a little couch there. I sleep on that. We have the hot plate, too. Good enough to boil the coffee in the morning.
Mm-hmm. How come you couldn't find space in town? The hotels aren't that rushed, are they?
Well, the ones I'm used to staying at, yes. I'd just soon camp here at the studio than stay at one of those places downtown. Say, Wouldn't you like to see the rest of the lot? Pretty interesting if you've never seen a real movie lot. I mean a high-class one.
We've seen them, Mr. Freiberg. We'd like to check your office.
Oh, all right. This is it. Cottages need a good coat of paint, of course. It'll all be done pretty soon. West Side is going to come back strong. You can bet on that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Uh-oh. Watch it on that first step there. It's loose. Have to call maintenance and get that fixed.
Yeah, it's all right.
Here we are. Well, as you can see, the office isn't very much. What is it you wanted, gentlemen?
You want to check that cabinet there, Ed? I'll take a look through these cases over here.
Okay.
This picture here on the wall. That's the cast and the production staff of my first film. Here's the other one. Me and R.Z. Bernard. He autographed the picture for me, Bernard himself. Those were the days, all right. Quality. That's what we went after in pictures, real quality. Not like today. Gone. The good days. Fine pictures. It's gone. All gone.
How about it, Freiberg? These cases of books here and these photographs.
Not my fault, believe me. I had to make a living. I had to make money. How do you think it feels to get cheap like that? I used to be young. I was big. I was talent. I made big pictures. How do you think it feels to get cheap all of a sudden? Cheap enough to do this kind of thing.
Nobody forced you. It was your choice, mister.
It wasn't my choice. You're wrong. All I want to do is make pictures. There isn't a chance anymore. Not like the old days. You need hundreds of thousands. Millions. It's gone. It's all gone. Had to eat. Had to put clothes on my back.
You admit you're responsible for this? Books, pictures, working in the high school trade, kids like Steve Banner, Bud Spencer?
After 1935, I couldn't get a job. I didn't want this. I had to do it. I'm ashamed. Who wouldn't be? I had to eat. It was the only way. I had to live.
There's honest jobs to be had. How about this man named Jack?
He was in with me. He was my cameraman back in the old days. You can't blame him either. He had to live, too.
You willing to come downtown with us? Give us a statement?
Yes, all right. All right, anything.
How about the parties, the two girls, Laura Osborne, Dorothy Ryan?
I took some pictures, that's all. I didn't harm them. Not in any way.
You had it wrong, Freiberg. You know that.
Yeah, I know. Just to have the kids there made you remember the days in your life. Best days in anybody's life.
What so?
When you used to have money. When you used to be young.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On January 29th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, won't you do this for me? Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette. You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection. Cools the smoke for your protection. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs. 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. That's why I'd like you to buy Fatima.
The suspects Charles Zeman Freiberg and his accomplice Jack L. Labrie were tried and convicted on 4 counts of contributing to the delinquency of minors. Both of them served full terms in the county jail. Contributing to the delinquency of minors is punishable by a fine of not more than $1,000 or by imprisonment in the county jail for 1 year, or by both fine and imprisonment. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Virginia Gregg, and Ralph Moody. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes. Best of all king-size cigarettes has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Now it's Counter Spy on NBC.
Pat Novak, for hire.
Sure. I'm Pat Novak. For hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak for hire. It's an easy way to put it, because if you're going to make a living down on the waterfront in San Francisco, you got to do everything but run for office. I rent boats and kick around a few scruples if the price is right. It's a living, and if anything goes wrong, you can always get your mother a visitor's pass. If you do get in trouble, you go first class all the way. I found that out when I first met Doreen Wilde. It was almost dark, and I was sitting in the office with the door open when she first showed up. Showed up's the right word. The wind was blowing outside and pushed her dress tightly against her legs as she walked in. She was young. From what I could see, she made Cleopatra look like Apple Mary. She had a voice like a bowl of warm stew.
Hello. Are you Mr. Novak?
That's my story.
I'm Doreen Wilde. Mind if I sit down? On your desk here?
You'll block the view.
You'll get used to the new one. There. Now lean back and let me look at you. I want to hire you, Mr. Novak.
After the look or before?
You've got a power complex, darling. You know a man named Joe Candono?
Oh, he's a gambler out on Geary Street. Friend of yours?
I don't dislike him that much. We have business connections. That's why I want to hire you. To give him some money tonight.
A needy case or a bad debt?
A bad debt. Candono has an IOU from my brother for $10,000. You can go from there.
Not if I'm supposed to say it was a fixed game. Candono's been around a long time.
Yes?
That's right. There are only two kinds of gamblers in this town, honest ones and dead ones. So if your brother owes $10,000, he better pay.
That's why I'm hiring you. Just pay off Candono and make sure you get the pictures.
Pictures of the Grand Canyon, huh?
We'll talk about my past some other time.
Well, for the moment, we'll just say you're photogenic.
That's right.
Your brother can't get the $10,000, so Candono's shaking you down.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll bet you make a nice rattle. How did Candono get the pictures?
My brother gave them to him.
You got a charming brother.
You see only his better side. Will you do the job for $100?
How long's it going to take?
2 hours, maybe. You'll have to meet with my brother.
To meet with your brother, $100 is coolie wages.
He'll give you the information, then you can see Candono.
Where do I meet your brother?
Room 729, the Dixie Hotel. He'll be there about 8:30.
That packing crate down on Powell Street? Your brother's a cutie. I know winos that wouldn't go in there.
We'll meet you there at 8:30.
Oh? You going to be there?
Yes. Do you mind?
I can stand it.
Do you carry a spare battery for that gleam in your eye?
Your $100 covers that, too. See you at 8:30. She smiled at me, and I felt like a guy that just found an oil well in the basement. Well, there were a lot of things about the deal I didn't like, but she kind of made you forget. I kept remembering her as she walked out of there with a slow, easy gait. She had knee action that'd make a Nash jealous. Well, I hit the Dixie Hotel about 8:25. It was the kind of a hotel that has a 4 a.m. checkout rule. There were 2 or 3 guys sitting around reading tip sheets, and Over in the corner, a couple of well-upholstered gals were talking about recipes, I guess. The desk clerk was the worst of the lot. He looked like a guy that might have been expelled from Alcatraz. Nobody looked up as I walked through. When I got to 729, I knocked. There was no answer, so I opened the door and walked in. There was a bed lamp on and a lot of smoke in the room. Through the smoke, I could pick out the committee. They were crazy about me.
Come on in. Looking for someone?
Yeah, but she's got a better figure than you.
Close the door.
No, she's not here. I'll just run along.
Close the door, mister.
You need the ventilation.
I said close the door. Now sit down. Sit down on the bed there.
You're a tough host.
So I'm broken-hearted. Just be a good boy now and give it to me, huh?
You got the wrong guy.
You give it to me fast, mister.
I don't know what you're talking about. I came up here to meet somebody.
Already met him.
I've run across better people in sewers. Now, look, meathead, I'm only going to say this once more, so make a copy. You got the wrong guy. You think I got something? I haven't got it.
No?
No, so you and your playmates swing out of here in your tails. I never saw you until 3 minutes ago, and I'm tired of the friendship already.
All right. Eddie.
Yeah?
Go through this guy's coat.
Yeah, sure.
Now, wash your hands, Junior, and then put them in your own pockets.
Oh. You got a favorite profile, fella?
Hmm?
Because I'm going to put this gun on one side. Take your choice. Grab him, hold him up. All right, Eddie. Now you don't have to wash your hands.
I woke up with a head the size of Rhode Island. I rolled over and tried to get up, but I was about as strong as a moth in a wind tunnel. The room was dark, and I couldn't see very well. There was a stale, musty odor. Could have been a marathon dancer's dressing room, with a little fixing up, the sort of place you wouldn't be found dead in. There was a guy lying next to me who didn't feel that way about it. One look at the guy, and I could see he was dead from the crew cut down. Somebody wrapped a towel around his throat and forgot to say when. I should have got out of there right then, but I used my brain like a bottle of medicine, a small dose every 3 hours. I stood there, looking down at him, and felt like a guy that's just rolled a 7 the second time out. A small chunk of light squeezed through the door, and I could see particles of dust settling on his face. He was lying there, straight and white-faced, with a little bit of scowl, as if he didn't like the idea. I went through his wallet and found a few bucks and some identification. Enough to prove he was Frank Wilde, Doreen's brother. Oh, it looked nice and clear. They'd done everything but pin the IOU on his shirt. Well, I couldn't wait around because when Homicide got there, I was going to be as popular as a can of salmon on Friday. Homicide meant Inspector Hellman, a guy that couldn't even make the Vice Squad. We were as close as a piccolo and a bass trombone. I got to thinking about him and decided to get out of there. It was a good idea 5 minutes ago.
Hello, Novak.
Oh, Hellman.
Small wake, huh?
Just a few close friends. You always drop by room 729 this time of night?
I got a bad memory for faces. Who's your friend?
His name's Frank Wilde.
That's one answer.
I was supposed to meet him here at 8:30.
That's another. You got a third?
Hmm?
Who killed him?
I don't know, Hellman. Maybe 3 or 4 people. Maybe a pack of lugs from Joe Candono's.
Yeah? I think you're modest, Novak. I think maybe you killed him.
Oh, yeah, sure. I wrapped the towel around his neck, beat myself to death with a pistol, and jumped into the same grave.
Maybe.
Oh, stop it, Hellman. That isn't smart.
That still leaves you in the running.
I came up here to make $100. That's all I know about it. Check down at the desk. They'll tell you.
I checked on the way up. The desk clerk says room 729 is in your name.
Get your dough back, Hellman. You've been hijacked.
Yeah?
Look up a gal named Doreen Wilde.
Who's she?
The stiff sister. He got in a jam with Joe Candono and bailed himself out with some pictures.
Oh. What kind of pictures?
You just look her up and find out where she was at 9 o'clock tonight.
I got a bird in the hand.
And call on Joe Candono. His Gunsel's held a convention here tonight.
That's too much legwork. You're handy, Novak.
I can't afford a bum rap, Hellman. Get yourself another boy.
You get me one. It's your hotel room, there's a dead guy in it, and you got a bad record. I can make that add up for the DA.
You can't add a pair of zeros without crib notes, Hellman.
I can try hard, and I'll be all through in 24 hours. That's how long you got, Novak. You got 1 day, and you're not going to be lonesome. Because I'm going to put a tail on you the whole time.
Well, that'll be fun.
I'm going to know where you are every minute.
Stop posing, will you? You couldn't follow an elephant across a basketball court.
Just stay handy, Novak. I'll be ready. I'm going to fingerprint this room and run that towel through a test. And then I'll be ready.
Yeah, you better watch out for that towel.
Huh?
Remember, when it comes to towels, Hellman, you have to start from scratch. Well, when I left, Hellman was smiling like an Academy Award winner. I didn't blame him, because from my side of the road, things looked rough. From here in, he could play a pat hand and come out all right. There were only two other people, Joe Candono and that girl. I was real worried, so I looked up the only honest guy I know, an ex-doctor and a boozer by the name of Jocko Madigan. Oh, he was all right for a guy who tries to drink all the whiskey in the world every night, only some night he's going to make it. I finally found him at the Bellevue Hotel, holed up in the hunt room. He was getting the most he could out of a bottle, old whiskey and young ideas. It was 10 o'clock, and he was carrying a bigger load than the Berlin airlift.
Oh-ho! A drink for Mr. Novak. And one for me. I'll have to catch up.
Skip me. You busy, Jocko?
I'm deep in the labor of love. What happened to your face?
I got a better offer. I'm in a jam, Jocko. You got to help me.
You're always in a jam. You're the eternal patsy. Also, you're my solitary reason for going on.
Forget it, Jocko.
Well, you're the last project Providence has allowed me. An hors d'oeuvre that fate has thrown me to nibble on. I'm your conscience, you know.
Yeah, all right.
You have no conscience of your own. Oh, you have fleeting moments of fright which you confuse as moral sense, but no conscience.
All right, let's get off the platform, shall we? I need help, quick.
What kind of jam? A big one?
Yeah. I woke up about an hour ago holding hands with a dead man.
Where?
Room 729 at the Dixie Hotel.
I hope you changed rooms.
Hellman walked in and found me praying for the dead. He's got an idea I did it.
A shrewd policeman.
That was the second feature. We opened with a pistol whipping by Joe Candono's gunsels. Oh, you got to help me.
Would a drink help?
Hellman's got a guy tailing me. I got to go slow, Jocko. I want you to hit Candono's place and pick up every scrap of dope, will you?
I'd look out of place in a gambling joint.
There's a bar. Tour the joint and find out when the boys got back, huh?
Where do you plan to be? Hiding under a rose bush?
I'm going up to see a girl. She's the dead guy's sister.
Are you going up to extend sympathy?
She's mixed up, too. Candono's holding some blackmail pictures.
Let's reverse the assignment.
Now, look, you see Candono. I'll tag by Doreen Wiles' place.
Huh? She must be Harry Wilde's daughter.
Who's he?
The money crowd, to use a low term.
What's he like?
A retired octopus. After he got sick of chasing cigarette girls, he settled down to be a social worker.
Yeah?
Now he's like all social workers. A guy who's embarrassed because he wasn't born poor. And for years, he's been annoying the poor by trying to help them.
Hit Candono's place. Now, if you hit anything good, phone me at her apartment. And keep out of trouble.
Well, I'd say the same to you if it weren't futile. Good night, lover.
When I walked out, Geary Street was cold and deserted. The fog had moved in and staked out a claim all the way down to Market Street. There were two Marines across the street arguing, so I didn't hear it at first. When I got out of range, I began to hear the footsteps behind me. I stopped once and the footsteps broke off. I walked on a few yards and the footsteps were right behind me. They had a familiar ring and I was sure it was either Hellman or a water buffalo. When I stopped and waited, Hellman walked up.
You're out late, Novak.
What happened to that tail? Did he ask for more dough?
I put our best man on it. Where are you going?
Well, now, I'll bet you get some real good answers on that question.
Where you going, smart boy?
Doreen Wiles' apartment.
Yeah, why?
To find out where she was at 9 o'clock tonight?
It won't do you any good.
Why?
Coroner's report. The guy got knocked off about 7 o'clock tonight.
Well, he took a long time dying.
That towel was a joke. If he wasn't strangled, he would have been red-faced. He wasn't.
Oh, well, now, let me guess, Hellman. He died of lingering malaria.
Yeah, he was poisoned. That means he was dead when you brought him in.
Oh, that changes things, doesn't it?
A little. Don't let me keep you, Novak. I'm busy anyway.
Yeah?
Yeah. Checking your alibi for 7 o'clock.
I had no alibi for 7 o'clock. That was right after the girl left my office. Oh, I might be able to dig up a witness, but I wasn't sure. It's like asking a horse if he's going to win the Derby. Well, the questions were piling up, so I dropped by Doreen Wiles' apartment. I began to wonder. It was right next door to Candono's place. When she opened the door, I found out what the right kind of breakfast food will do. She was wearing a slack suit without much slack, and she was swaying slightly in a warm, slow way. Well, if there was any rhythm there, it's the kind you hear 1,000 miles down the Amazon. And when she said hello, you knew it was all chemistry.
Hello, Mr. Novak.
I missed you at room 729.
This'll do just as well. Come in.
Yeah.
You're wearing your face a different style.
Yeah, Candono's boys didn't like it the old way.
I like it. I like it very much.
Yeah, what happened to you tonight?
Frank was supposed to pick me up. He didn't come by.
I see. Your brother finally showed up at the hotel.
Oh, yes?
Yeah. He paid off that IOU.
Is that a quaint way of telling me he's dead?
I suppose. Oh, don't sob so loud. You'll wake the neighbors.
You know by this time that to me Frank was a poor excuse at best. Nothing more. Besides, I knew he was dead. Father's down there now identifying the body.
Just for the record, who has those pictures now?
Candono, I suppose?
His boys piled me tonight looking for something. I got the idea it wasn't my Social Security number.
Oh, you've had a busy evening.
Yeah, they're going to book me for Frank's murder. Just call me Patsy.
You need a drink then, darling?
It can wait. Now, look, you're going to save some time if you tell me right now.
No, I didn't kill Frank. I'd be willing to contribute to a shrine for the man who did.
How about Candono?
I don't know. In fact, I don't know Mr. Candono. Thirsty yet?
Yeah, go ahead.
Patsy, I'll give you $5,000 to find out who killed Frank.
Hmm?
Oh, I'll admit it was a good idea killing him, but I want to see the family name cleared up.
Why don't you change names? That's easier.
Oh, don't be crude. Will you do it?
I may hang, and you can save your $5,000.
Here's your drink. The money might help. Should we call it a bargain?
Suit yourself.
You don't want to stand there balancing that drink.
No.
That's it. Sit down. You know, you're an interesting guy, Patsy. I like you.
Yeah?
Yes, don't snowball the statement.
Why'd you make it then?
It seems safe enough.
You sure?
You're a little close, Patsy.
Are you sure?
At this point, I don't care.
Come here, baby.
Patsy.
What's on your mind?
Where I can buy a desert island cheap.
Looks like you got an offer.
Father, he's forgotten his key. Excuse me. Come on over, Father. I want you to meet Mr. Novak.
Mr. Novak?
Yeah, they think I killed your son. Hi.
He's the one I told you about.
Oh, yes. Yes, now I remember.
It's probably for me. Hello? Oh, yes. I think so. I'll be right there. I've got to run, darling. Only be gone a while. Father, keep Mr. Novak sober, I'll pick up from there. Good night, Father. See you soon, Patsy.
A remarkable girl.
She's active, too. Does she always sail out for a night camp?
A remarkable girl.
More so than Frank?
I'm afraid so.
You seem to like him better dead.
Well, at least he's more harmless that way. But perhaps that sounds unbecoming of a father.
Well, if he looks better that way, suit yourself.
Well, I've never made any attempt to camouflage my feelings. I'm fond of my daughter. And my son, I've loathed. In a casual way. He's a mishap of nature which for years I've been content to blame on his mother. This matter of the gambling debts, case in point.
You know about that?
Oh, yes. Plus Doreen's liberal contribution to the problem. By the way, Mr. Novak, who did kill him?
I thought maybe you did.
No. I'm not a doer. I just cheer from the grandstand. Excuse me. Hello? It's for you, Mr. Novak.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, Patsy. I'm down at Candono.
I know that. What'd you find out?
Never played 2 and 8 on a roulette wheel.
All right, drop the clowning.
Well, I found out about your friend.
Yeah?
They came in about 10 o'clock, so that puts them right in line.
No, not anymore. The guy got knocked off at 7 o'clock.
Oh, impatient, wasn't he? In that case, you better start looking for a tie-up between the girl and Candono.
Not a chance.
No?
She doesn't even know Candono.
She makes friends very quickly then because she just walked into his office.
Well, things were beginning to fall into place. If the girl and Candono were that chummy, they were using those pictures. To squeeze the old man, probably. There was only one thing about it that didn't make sense. Why did Candono's boys beat my brains out if he had the pictures all along? Well, I talked to the old man a while, and then I headed for Candono's joint. They were closed when I got there, so I went home to bed. Oh, I'd have given a good price if tomorrow never rolled around. But the sun was eating through the haze the next morning when I walked into Candono's place. A sad old biddy with a mop told me Candono was in his office, so I knocked on the door.
Yeah?
Hello, Candono. I'm the guy your boys pistol whipped.
Novak? Come on in. I wouldn't worry. Maybe you'll heal handsome.
Thanks.
I'm sorry about that, Novak.
I'll bet you are.
Well, that's the way you'll get it. It won't come engraved. If I say I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're full of tears. You going to shed one when they send me up on a bum murder rap?
No, I'll buy you a handkerchief, though.
If you got the time, you might tell me what Doreen Wilde was doing in here last night.
What do you care? Maybe we're in love.
And maybe you're putting the screws on old man Wilde.
Hello? Yeah. Did you tell anybody you were coming here?
No, just a birdie.
It's for you.
Yeah. Hello, Jocko. When? Well, from where I'm sitting, it doesn't make sense. No, of course not. Yeah, I'll let you know. Well, how you feeling, Candono?
Get to the point, Novak.
They found a dead guy out in the marina this morning. He was shot and banged up badly, but they identified him.
What's that to me?
Nothing, except they identified him as Joe Candono. Confused?
No. It was a guy named Eddie Darrow.
Friend of yours?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess he was.
What does that prove?
It proves lots, Novak. It proves unless you find her in a cemetery, never trust a woman.
Well, with a good assist from Deep Short, we could make it now. I knew that. Candono was mad about something, and the lid was going to blow. I called Hellman. His lid was gone 10 minutes ago. He had the murder gun, and it belonged to old man Wilde. A messenger walked in and put it on the sergeant's desk a few hours ago with no explanation. Oh, that was the clincher. From here on in, it was cakes and ale. I told Hellman what I knew. He picked me up at Geary and Taylor, and we headed for the Wilde apartment. The girl and the old man were in the living room when we walked in.
Everybody had breakfast?
Patsy, I didn't know you came out till after dark.
Well, we just wanted to call on your old man. Wilde, this is Inspector Hellman.
Is there anything I can do?
You're ambitious, Wilde. Hellman's here to arrest you for murder.
I'm amused, but not frightened.
They might have gone easy on you for killing your son, but not Eddie Darrow.
And who is Eddie Darrow?
The guy you thought was Candono when you killed him last night. Your daughter was helping him put on that squeeze.
She even sent in your gun this morning.
Please, Doreen, tell these men.
Well, the starting backfield. Hello, Candono.
Step aside, Novak.
You don't need that gun, Joe.
Not for long. All right. Push the girl out there. Push the girl out there.
For a gambler, these are bad odds, Joe.
Just keep talking loud, and when you stop, all of a sudden, you'll know I'm through with it.
You made the first switch, Joe.
I didn't trust you, so I sent Eddie Darrow up. He was a good guy, and I liked him.
I didn't kill him, Joe.
You made it easy, though. Say 'em fast, baby. Here it comes.
Look out, Doreen!
Watch the old man. Give me that gun.
Yeah. They keep shooting the wrong people around here.
I'm sorry, Hellman. I bungled, huh?
Yeah, you bungled, Joe. How's the old guy, Novak?
You should live so long, Hellman. He's dead.
You're gonna need me soon, huh, Hellman?
Yeah, right now. Come on, Joe. Tag by headquarters, Novak.
Sure.
Well, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry he jumped in front of me. He didn't have to do it.
No, but you expected it.
I suppose. I'm made to expect things, Patsy.
Uh-huh. And you're not going to mind this.
I expected that, too. You can slap me, but don't leave me, Patsy. I don't want to be alone. You got a cigarette?
They're on the table.
I see. A match, Patsy?
You go build your own fire. I'm leaving.
Please, Patsy, I don't want to be alone.
You won't. I'll send you a whistle. Goodbye. Sweet double cross right from the start. Frank pitched the first curve. He stole the pictures from Candono's office the day of the payoff. He was going to wait for the dough from his sister and skip. In the meantime, the old man found out about it, killed the son, and left him in the hotel after Candono's boys had cleared out. Oh, it would have worked out all right, but Doreen found the pictures in the old man's room and guessed what happened. She gave him back to Candono and then made a deal with him to put a squeeze on the old man. And then she double-crossed Candono by tipping off the old man that Candono was on his way up. I guess he figured the girl for a fast play and sent a pal instead. The old man didn't know the difference. He really thought he killed Candono. And then the girl wrapped it up by sending his gun to headquarters. Well, things had gone right. She'd have been right in the middle of that gravy boat. Her brother and Candono would be dead. Her father would be up on a murder rap. Once it started to unravel, it moved real fast. The first tip-off I got was when she offered the dough for her brother's killer. She'd have all that dough, and on the books she'd look like a field of Vermont snow. She was feeling around between somebody's shoulder blades, and from then on, all the cards fell just right. Candono was probably right. If they're not in the cemetery, watch out. Well, Hellman had only one question. Why would a guy want to kill off a dame like that? After I saw the pictures, I wondered myself.
The Armed Forces Radio Service has just brought you Pat Novak for Hire, starring Jack Webb. Pat Novak is produced by William P. Russo. Jocko Madigan is played by Tudor Owen. Inspector Hellman is played by Raymond Burr. Music was composed and conducted by Basil Adlam. Be with us again next week when over most of these same stations we'll bring you Pat Novak for Hire.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A 39-year-old housewife disappears suddenly. There's no explanation for it. 5 days later, evidence of possible foul play is uncovered. Your job, investigate. Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Now, best of all king-size cigarettes.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, at the same price as the cigarette you are now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, September 15th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from lunch, and it was 12:56 p.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide.
Hi, Joe. Waiting for you.
Hi, Ed. Al, here you got something for us, huh?
Mm-hmm. Here's the report right here. Gardner by the name of Abbott called in day before yesterday. Chester Abbott said his wife disappeared from their home out in the valley Thursday night. He says he thinks she left him.
Well, it happens every day.
Not this way, it doesn't. Walsh and I went out to talk to the man yesterday. His story doesn't make too much sense.
How you mean now?
None of his wife's clothes are missing, none of her luggage. She even left her pocketbook behind, full of money. We found out from the neighbors the missing woman has a 17-year-old boy by a former marriage.
Does that mean anything?
Well, he's an only child. Mother dotes on the kid. She didn't even say goodbye to him.
Well, how'd this Chester Abbott impress you?
Pretty grouchy with Walsh and me. No cooperation.
Wants to find his wife, doesn't he?
I don't know. I'm not sure. He's no help, I can tell you that much.
Could I see that report, Al?
Yeah, here you are.
Thank you. Florence Trumbull Abbott, age 39.
Abbott's her second husband. First one died a little after the boy was born.
Mm-hmm. Disappeared Thursday night from the home, 546 Belasco Road, between 7 and 8 o'clock. Well, when did Abbott call in to notify you?
Monday afternoon. Told us he thought his wife might have been spending the weekend with her sister. When he found out she wasn't, he called us.
Mm-hmm. You meet the boy when you were out there?
Yeah, that's another thing.
How do you mean?
The kid came riding up on a bike when we were talking to one of the neighbors. We tried to talk to him, but the old man came out and hustled the boy into the house. Then he started showing us out.
Well, what's his trouble?
He told us it was our job to find his wife, not to go prying into his stepson's affairs.
Mm-hmm. That's a new slant.
Well, how about the woman's friends and relatives? They've been checked out yet, Al?
Walsh is on it now. Don't think he's had much luck contacting him so far. I'll tell you the truth, I don't like the looks of it.
Mrs. Abbott have any other relatives here? I mean, besides a sister and 2 aunts?
Yeah, I got the list right over here. Sure wish we had a chance to talk to that boy.
Notice anything else out of the way about Mr. Abbott, Al?
Well, I don't know. Here's that list, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
Abbott was upset, all right. I don't know, though. He didn't exactly strike me as reacting the way a normal man reacts when his wife's disappeared.
Well, how about a copy of this report? You got one to spare?
Yeah, sure. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Missing persons, Barghetti. That's right. This is Barghetti speaking. Who's that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. About what? All right, good. 4 o'clock? Fine. All right, son. Goodbye. Well, that was the boy I was telling you about, Mr. Abbott's stepson.
What do you want?
He wants to talk to us. Sounded worried.
About his mother?
He thinks something's happened to her.
In police work, missing persons detail is not a department separate in itself. It's organized as a part of homicide division. When the possibility of homicide arises in the course of handling a case, missing persons immediately turns the matter over to homicide officers for investigation. When we got the call from the Abbott boy, we automatically took over. According to Al Barghetti, the boy said he suspected his stepfather and he didn't want him to know of any meeting between him and police officers. At 3:15, Ed and I left the office and drove to the meeting place designated by the boy, the Dairyland Fountain and Coffee Shop near the corner of Fairfax and Hollywood Boulevard. We got there at 3:50 p.m. At 8 minutes past 5, the Abbott boy still had not arrived. We waited another 15 minutes, and then we left and drove out to the valley and pulled up in front of the main gate to the Abbott nursery on Belasco Road. The house itself was set well back on the property, which covered about 5 acres of ground. The entire nursery was surrounded by a 6-foot chain-link fence. and it looked like every available foot of ground inside was planted with some kind of flower or shrub. Mr. Abbott met us at the gate. He had 3 full-grown mastiffs with him. He held them on a chain.
Yes, what do you want?
Police officers, you Chester Abbott?
That's right. What do you want?
Well, if you can get those dogs quiet for a few minutes, we'd like to ask you some questions.
Pretty busy now. Can't you come back tomorrow?
No, it's important, Abbott. We'd like to talk to you now.
All right, if you have to. Yes, time. Get down. You two, Joe. Quiet. I said quiet. All right. Now, what do you want?
Mind if we come inside, sir?
These watchdogs of mine are pretty vicious. We can talk here at the gate.
All right. We've been assigned to look into your wife's disappearance, Abbott. This is my partner, Sergeant Jacobs. My name's Friday.
Mm-hmm. Find out anything about my wife yet?
Nothing definite, no. Thought maybe you could help us. Mind telling us exactly what happened the night she disappeared?
What do you mean, what happened?
Well, when did you see her last? When did you first notice she was gone?
Well, we had dinner Thursday night about 7 o'clock, then I laid down for a nap. Florence went out on the front porch for some air. I woke up a little before 8 o'clock and went outside to look for her. She was gone.
No one saw her leave, Mr. Abbott?
Not that I know of. Maybe one of our neighbors. You can ask them. They seem to know everybody's business.
How about your stepson? Wasn't he home Thursday night?
Bruce? No, he went out to a show with some other kids.
When did he get back from the show, you remember?
About 10 o'clock, I think. Why?
Where's the boy now, Abbott?
Who are you looking for, my wife or stepson?
Both of them. Where is he?
Gone. I took him over to my sister's in Alhambra. He'd been feeling bad since his mother disappeared. Figured the change would do him good.
Well, when did you take him over to your sister's?
This afternoon. What's that got to do with it?
Like to talk to him?
No, you can't. You won't allow it. The boy's too upset right now, and I can't allow it.
I'm afraid you're going to have to allow it, Abbott.
Listen, mister. You can get off this property right now if you're going to get fresh with me. No cops giving me any sass. Get down there, honey. Quiet.
Nobody's giving you sass. We want to talk to your stepson, that's all. He might be able to give us a lead on the whereabouts of your wife.
And I say you can't see the boy. You've been looking for Florence for a week, and you haven't found a thing. I'll get somebody else to look for her. It's my business anyway, nobody else's.
It's our business if anything happened to her.
What are you talking about?
You better get your coat, Abbott. I'd like to talk to you downtown.
Come through that gate, and I'll let these dogs go.
We hate to shoot them, mister.
Wait, what are you trying to prove anyhow? What do I have to go downtown for?
I'll tell you when we get there. Now get your coat. Chester Abbott turned, made his way up the path and into the house. A few minutes later, he came out, closed the gate behind him, and got into our car. On the way back downtown, he talked pleasantly about the weather, the nursery business, and his dogs. When we got to the office, we found out the reason for his sudden change in temperament. His lawyer was waiting for us at the door. We tried to interrogate Abbott, but the lawyer objected to just about every question we asked. It was hopeless, and we knew it, and so did the lawyer. We released Abbott, but not before we got the name and address of his sister in Alhambra, where the stepson, Bruce, was supposedly staying. After Abbott and his lawyer left, Ed and I signed out of the office and drove to Alhambra to check on the boy.
Forget he sure had this one pegged. Real sleeper.
Yeah. I'd like to know how the stepson missed that date with us this afternoon.
The boy called us from the house. Stepfather could have overheard him.
Yeah, it's possible. Sister's house ought to be along this block, shouldn't it?
Let's see. 1408. 06, yeah, there it is. Great Cottage, 1402.
Okay, let's pull up here, huh?
Right.
Nice looking place, well kept, huh?
Nice neighborhood. Wonder how the lot prices run out here.
I don't know. I'll get the bell.
Yes, what is it?
Police officers, ma'am. You Miss Abbott?
Yes, Helen Abbott. Why?
Well, we talked to your brother earlier today, Miss Abbott. He said he brought his stepson, Bruce, over here to stay a while. We'd like to see him if we could.
Bruce? Well, yes, he was here until about an hour and a half ago. I went to the store, and when I came back, he was gone.
You any idea where we can find him, Miss Abbott?
Well, I telephoned my brother Chester just before you came to the door. Bruce isn't there.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you mind if we came in and looked around, Miss Abbott? Won't take long.
Well, why? I told you Bruce isn't here. It's the truth. There's no reason to lie about it, is there?
Well, no, ma'am. It's not that.
Well, then what is it? No reason for me to lie to you.
How about your brother? We went in and looked the house over from one end to the other. There wasn't a trace of the boy. We drove back to the Abbott nursery and satisfied ourselves the boy wasn't there. Meantime, the home of Chester Abbott's sister in Alhambra was kept under constant surveillance. No one came or went. The next morning, when Ed and I checked in for work as usual at 8 a.m., we met with Sergeant Al Barghetti.
Well, I had half an idea there might be something wrong. What makes you so positive, though?
It's just it, Al. We're not positive. It's the whole setup, I guess. Smells bad.
How do you mean, for instance?
Well, Abbott's lawyer, for one thing. If a man's innocent, he doesn't have his lawyer sit with him and tell him not to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Number two, the kid's phone call. He didn't show up for that date. You figure.
I don't know. Could be he doesn't get along with his stepfather. Happens, you know. Maybe he's trying to get back at him for something or other.
Yeah, that could be. Why is Abbott hiding him out, then?
Pretty sure he's hiding him out.
Where things been going, no other way to take it.
Mrs. Abbott walked away from her home last Thursday night. Nobody saw her. She took nothing with her. No luggage, no clothes, no money.
That's it.
You checked with her family doctor?
Yesterday. Told us Mrs. Abbott was in perfect health. Checked her bank statements, double-checked the name to her wanderer's file, repeaters found, missing persons. Couldn't find it in either one.
Her relatives, too. How you talked to them?
Some of them, yeah, Al. Got a few more to check out this morning.
Well, one thing's certain. No clothes, no money, no luggage. She couldn't have gone very far. You checked all the angles, huh?
Well, the sheriff's office, the jails, the hospitals. Sent out a teletype and an APV. She's been gone almost a week, and nobody's seen her. Now, how's that add up to you?
Well, we got an idea.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong.
8:45 a.m. Ed and I left the office and continued making the rounds of the missing woman's friends and relatives. We checked at the Western National Bank, where Mrs. Abbott maintained another account. Her savings statement showed a total balance of $31,564.17. Her checking account had a balance of $842.71. At the Farmers Mutual, we found the record of an insurance policy issued to Florence Trumbull Abbott. It was a 20-pay life policy covering the insured in the amount of $30,000. The beneficiary was listed as the insured's son, Bruce Trumbull Abbott, if living upon receipt of such due proof. If not, the insured's husband, Chester J. Abbott. By the time we finished checking the missing woman's financial status, we figured we had a fair suspect in the husband, Chester Abbott. From casual reports, we knew he was a frugal man, almost to the point of obsession. If he was greedy as well, if he wanted or needed money badly enough to kill, then he had all the motives necessary to murder his wife. Maybe his stepson, too. 6:40 p.m., Ed and I drove back to the office. Go ahead.
Long day. A lot of mileage.
Yeah. Wonder if Al's still around. Hey, Bargetti. Al?
Yeah, here. That you, Friday?
Yeah.
How'd you do? Got anything?
A few things. Pretty fair luck. Good. I got some more for you. Just walked in here 10 minutes ago.
Who's that?
Bruce Abbott. He's waiting in the next room.
We went into the next room and met the Abbott boy. He was small for a 17-year-old, dark-haired, thin, a little on the sickly side. He seemed nervous and upset. He told us that he wasn't able to keep the date he made with us on the phone because his stepfather did apparently overhear the conversation and drove the boy immediately to his sister's place in Alhambra. We asked the boy what made him so sure that his stepfather was responsible for his mother's disappearance.
Well, for one thing, all three of us usually go to the early show on Thursday night, Chester, Mom, and me. But last Thursday we didn't go.
Why was that, son?
Well, Chester said he wasn't feeling too good and he wanted Mom to stay home and take care of him. Then he told me to go on ahead to the show, so I did.
What time did you get home, Bruce?
About 10:15, 10 o'clock.
Did you notice anything unusual when you got home, son?
Not so much, no. Mom wasn't there. I didn't think much about it then. I thought maybe she was over to one of the neighbors.
You asked your stepfather where she was?
Uh-huh. He said he didn't know. He said he thought she was over at one of the neighbors, too.
What was your stepfather doing when you got home?
Just sitting in the living room reading the paper. I usually don't talk to him too much. I just asked him where Mom was, and he told me, and then I went back to my room and went to bed.
Did you notice anything unusual about the way he acted? Anything different about him at all?
Well, I'm not too sure. He did seem a little nervous, though. Jumpy. More than usual, I think.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Well, when I came through the front yard, I noticed the dogs had mud all over their paws. Red, Jaime, and George, all three of them. They must have been out in the nursery plots.
Anything unusual about that?
In a way, yeah. You see, the dogs don't go out in the plots unless Chester's with them. He doesn't want them to trample the seedlings. I noticed Chester had mud on his shoes that night, too.
And you figure your stepfather was out digging somewhere in the nursery plots that night, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Digging somewhere. He must have been. Can't figure out why, though.
How do you mean, son?
My stepfather never works at night.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee to every king-size cigarette smoker.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before August 1st, 1952, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, each king-size Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Switch to Fatima today. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Thursday, September 16th, 7:05 p.m. We continued talking to the missing woman's 17-year-old son, Bruce Abbott. As the interview went on, it became more and more obvious that the boy and his stepfather, Chester Abbott, didn't get along at all. Apparently, the boy was jealous of him, and he was jealous of the boy. Besides his prejudice, Bruce also contradicted himself during the course of the questioning. 7:15 p.m., the interview went on.
I understand that all right, son, but you say you can't think of any reason why your father'd be out working in the nursery plots that time of night?
No, sir, I can't. I don't know how he'd get any work done. None of the plots are even lighted, only the greenhouses.
Well, is it possible he could have gotten that mud on his shoes working in one of the greenhouses?
No, sir, I don't see how. All the paths in the greenhouses are graveled. It's my job to see they're kept graveled. I know they weren't muddy because I fixed them the day before.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think it means, Bruce?
I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I just know he's done something. He's done something to her.
Did your father, that is your stepfather, give you any reason for keeping you away from the police officers that came to your house? I mean, the first two officers who showed up?
No, he said people were getting nosy, that's all. He said it might be better for me over at my Aunt Helen's place.
Mm-hmm. Do you think your Aunt Helen might know where your mother is?
I don't think so. We hardly ever see Aunt Helen. We don't know her well at all.
Well, do you know if your mother and stepfather argued very much, son? I mean, big arguments.
Sometimes, yeah. Mostly about me.
How do you mean?
Chester's pretty tight, you know. Doesn't like to spend money at all. He and Mom used to argue about whether I ought to get paid for the work I did around the nursery. Chester didn't want to pay me.
That's so?
Yeah, when I started working, he promised he'd pay me. I was saving up to buy a 31 Model A. After a couple of weeks, when he didn't pay me, I asked him about it. He told me I ought to be glad to work for him for nothing.
And your mother argued with him about that?
Sure, she got good and mad, too. She should have gotten mad. It was her money that bought the nursery anyway.
Well, how'd you happen to get away from your aunt's place, Bruce?
It wasn't too hard. Helen had some shopping to do, and she left me alone. She locked the door to my room. Even the screen over the window was nailed down, but I kicked it out and got away. I stayed at a friend's house last night.
You thought much about where you're going to stay tonight, son?
Well, I don't know. Sergeant Burgetti, I was talking to him. He asked me if I wanted to go out and have dinner and then stay at his house tonight. I don't know.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
I don't know. Sure nice of him to ask me.
I think it'd be a lot better for you, son. Why don't you check in the next office, see if Burgetti's ready to leave, huh?
Yeah. Okay, Sergeant, thanks.
Sure.
You betcha.
Joe, what do you think?
It's hard to say. He might be lying. Before we signed out of the office that night, we met with Captain Lorman and outlined a plan to bring in the husband of the missing woman for questioning alone. We figured it'd serve two purposes: clarify the boy's position in the case and determine one way or another if the stepfather was withholding information about the disappearance of Mrs. Abbott. The big problem was to bring in Chester Abbott for interrogation without the knowledge of his lawyer. As we'd found out more than once, it was impossible to get anything out of Abbott with his lawyer present. We set up a plan to call at the Abbott home early in the morning, get the suspect out of bed, and bring him in before his lawyer could be notified. At 3:30 the following morning, Ed and I met at the office and started for the Abbott place. We brought along a couple of pounds of fresh horse meat to keep the dogs quiet if they raised a fuss. At 10 minutes past 4 a.m., we parked our car a few hundred feet down the road from the Abbott nursery and made our way toward the gate. I reached in and tried the latch. The dog started up.
How about it, Joe? Open?
No, it's padlocked. We're going to have to climb the fence. Toss some of that meat over to him, will you?
Yeah, okay. There.
All right, that does it. All right, let's climb the fence.
Keep an eye on the hounds. Looks like they can take a leg off.
Yeah. Take it easy, Ed.
All right. Watch out.
Yeah. Here comes that other dog. Get some more of that meat, right?
Yeah. There you are, boy. Go get it. Go on.
All right, that's fine. Come on, let's hurry.
Have a look, Joe.
Huh?
Windows along the side of the house. Lights just went on.
Yeah, come on.
Who is it? Who's there? Who is it? I'll set the dogs on you.
Police officers, Abbott. Friday and Jacobs.
What kind of business is this? What are you doing out here this time of night?
You're under arrest, Mr. Abbott.
What are you talking about?
I think you heard me. You're under arrest.
What kind of crazy thing is this? You're going to pay for this. I'll have your job.
You want to get your coat?
You cops are asking for a pack of trouble. You know that.
Get your coat.
I'd like to know what you think you're doing. Where's my stepson, anyway? What have you done with him?
I got a better one for you, mister.
Huh?
What have you done with your wife? 4:25 a.m. Ed and I drove the suspect, Chester Abbott, back downtown to the office. He was quiet and sullen. We headed down the hall for the squad room.
Light still burning in the office.
Yeah, probably Burgetti standing by. All right, Abbott, in there.
You're going to pay for this. You can take my word on that.
Ed, you want to take him in the office and stay with him? I'll check with Al.
Okay. All right, Abbott, inside.
bring him in?
Yeah, he's next door. Ed's with him.
Tough. Somebody must have seen you.
No, I don't think so.
They must have.
Why? What do you mean?
Abbott's lawyer. He's sitting in the next room.
How the lawyer had been notified, we couldn't be sure. Again, we tried to question Abbott, and again, on the advice of his attorney, he refused to answer practically every question we put to him. We released him. That day, Captain Lorman assigned 2 men to stake out on the nursery and report on all of Chester Abbott's movements. A little after 7 p.m., just after nightfall, we tried again to bring the suspect in for questioning without his lawyer's knowledge. It didn't work. The men assigned to stake out on the Abbott place reported definitely that someone was tipping off the attorney whenever unknown visitors showed up at the nursery and drove off together with Mr. Abbott. There was nothing we could do about it. The following morning, Al Barghetti came up with a lead.
Had a long talk with the boy last night. Think he came up with a pretty fair lead.
How's that?
The old man's responsible. We know there's only one way we'll get a conviction.
Yeah?
Find the body and enough evidence to tie him in.
Yeah, well, where do we start looking?
In a new rose bed. It's next to one of the greenhouses in Abbott's nursery.
Boy tell you this?
Yeah, seems to make sense. We know old man Abbott's crazy about saving $1. We found that out from the neighbors and the relatives.
Mm-hmm.
On the nursery trade, especially in the limited area Abbott has to work in, you cultivate every foot of ground you have. You plant every foot of soil with something.
Well, yeah, what's the point?
Well, Abbott's not the type to waste anything. He wouldn't let ground lie fallow when he could plant something that might bring in a few dollars next spring.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce tells me his stepfather has every inch of the property planted with something. Everything except a 6x8 plot of ground in that rose garden.
Well, what did the boy say? The plot been vacant for a long?
Well, he says his stepfather got it ready for planting a week and a half ago. It's still vacant.
Be worth checking out. How do we do it?
We can order up a crew from the crime lab. They can take probings through the plot, all around it. They ought to be able to tell us how deep the ground's been worked over lately.
Okay. What do you figure, tonight?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Maybe 11, 12 o'clock.
What about old man Abbott? You think he's going to sit still for it?
If the hunch pays off, he's going to sit still a long time.
It was 10 minutes past 11 that night when we got to the Abbott nursery. Lee Jones and the crime lab crew, Al Barghetti, Ed, and 2 other men from homicide. The men on stakeout told us Chester Abbott, along with his attorney, had left the house a half hour before in his car, a dark blue coupe. They hadn't returned. Ed brought along another supply of fresh horse meat for the dogs, so we didn't have any trouble there. We located the vacant plot of ground in the rose bed next to one of the greenhouses, as Bruce Abbott had described it to Barghetti. The crime lab crew started probing. The ground obviously had been worked over recently, and to some depth. They started digging.
Anderson, get that light over here, will you? Thanks.
Joe, see anything?
No. Let's keep digging.
It's right over here, huh?
Yeah. You know, this is it. He wasn't taking any chances. Down a good 4 or 5 feet now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, at least that.
Anderson, more light, huh?
All right, let's go at it. All right, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Woman's shoe here. Come on.
Just a minute.
Yeah, that's it. The shoulder there. It's a body. Well, it paid off, Al. The boy had it figured.
Yeah. Too bad he was right.
Ed and I went back to our car and notified communications to broadcast a warrant for murder on Chester Abbott. His description, together with a description of his car and license number, was rebroadcast every 15 minutes. The attorney was contacted, and he stated that Mr. Abbott had dropped him off at his home more than an hour before. He knew nothing of his whereabouts. Ed and I went back to check the Abbott home and found the front door unlocked. We went inside and looked around. In one bedroom, we found clothes scattered over the bed and on the floor. There was only one old suit left in one closet. On the table next to the bed, we found an airline's timetable. We got to the phone and notified communications to alert all special details at railroad stations, bus terminals, and airports, and then to get out an APB. After that, we checked with the airlines. One of them told us a man answering Abbott's description had booked passage to Mexico City that night under the name of Charles Frazier. The plane was scheduled to leave at 1:52 a.m. at the Burbank Airport. We called the detail at the airport and alerted them. Then we drove over to the field to follow through on it. It was 1:32 a.m. when Ed and I took up our positions just inside Gate 3, where passengers were boarding Flight 72 for Mexico City. There was no sign of the suspect either on the plane or in the waiting room.
Think you'll show?
I don't know.
Want your bag over here?
Where's Barghetti?
Over there by the cocktail lounge. See him?
Oh, yeah. What time you got now?
1:38.
Plane's due to take off in another 4 minutes, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Any Any sign of him, Al?
No, nothing. Just made the rounds. Checked with Stevens and Cummings. If he got in, he came in somebody's suitcase. Couldn't have possibly gotten through without one of us seeing it.
Well, he hasn't got much more time. Maybe it's a dead end, huh?
You don't see how he could have gotten wise, do you?
Over there. No, by the ticket counter there. You see him?
Yeah, that's him. Come on. All right, just a minute, Abbott.
I haven't got time now. I'll miss my plane. If you have anything more to say to me, you can wait till I get back.
Right now, Abbott.
And take it up with my lawyer. I'm in a hurry.
We found your wife's body.
How's that?
In the rose bed next to the greenhouse.
I don't know what you mean. You must be mistaken.
No mistake. Hands behind your back.
What's this all about? I haven't done anything.
All right, let's go.
No, just a minute. You got it wrong. I don't know anything about it.
We think you do. Now, come on.
Wasn't my fault. I didn't know what I was doing. I plead insanity. She drove me to it. We were arguing about the boy, and she slapped me. I didn't mean to do it.
All right, let's go, Abbott.
Can you wait just a minute more?
What for?
My plane. One from Mexico City. Funny, isn't it?
What's that?
I was so close. Just missed it. Not by more than 1 minute.
No, you're wrong about that, Abbott.
Just 1 minute, that's all.
Now, you missed it before you ever bought your ticket.
How do you figure?
When you first decided to kill your wife. Come on.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On December 19th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 89, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I'm holding 2 sets of fingerprint cards. Now, on one, prints found at the scene of a crime. On the second, the suspects taken from the files. Now, the only way in the world you can tell they're made by the same suspect is by comparison. If you'll compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette, you'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke, 85 millimeters, for your protection. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Prove it today. Buy Fatima.
Chester Vernon Abbott was tried and convicted of murder in the first degree. The jury failed to recommend clemency. Abbott was executed in the lethal gas chamber at the State Penitentiary, San Quentin, California. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, and Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips and Herb Ellis. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes. Best of all king-size cigarettes has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Now it's Counter Spy on NBC.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Personnel Division. A resident of your city files a report of assault and battery. His shoulder is dislocated. He's been badly beaten. He claims his assailant was a young police officer. Your job? Investigate.
Comparison proves Fatima quality.
Yes, comparison proves Fatima quality.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke,
plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you are now smoking.
Prove Fatima quality yourself today. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, June 11th. It was mild in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of BIA. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Lieutenant Jesse. My name's Friday. It was 10:23 a.m. when I got to room 83, the squad room.
Joe, you catch up with the lieutenant?
Yeah, in a meeting. Said he'd be out about 11:30. He wants us to handle it for the time being.
Oh. Well, Joe, this is Officer Blanchard. This is my partner, Joe Friday.
I'm glad to know you, Friday. I think I've seen you around Central a couple of times.
Yeah, sure. How are you?
Well, what's this thing all about? Do you mind telling me?
You worked yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. My regular beat, South Central area.
Anything out of the ordinary happen while you were on duty?
No, not much. Made a couple of pinches, that's about all. Pretty quiet otherwise.
Did you make one of those arrests at 7928 Cortlandt Avenue?
Yeah, that's right. A woman, 2 men, users. All 3 of them were booked in violation of State Narcotics Act.
Any of the 3 familiar to you at all, Blanchard? I mean, had you ever seen them before the time you arrested them?
No, none of them. I knew the place, though. I've been keeping an eye on it lately. One of those old-fashioned homes converted into a rooming house.
Uh-huh.
I've been noticing some of the people going in and out of the place. They didn't look too good to me. That's why I say I've been keeping an eye on the house. Now, what's the story on this anyway? You get a kickback on an arrest I made?
Well, we'd like to have your version of it first, Blanchard. Exactly what happened. How'd you come to make the pinch?
Well, I was walking my regular beat. I think it was about 3:30 yesterday afternoon. I was going along Cortlandt, the 7900 block. A woman came out of the front door and hailed me. She complained about a 507 party in the house a couple doors down the street.
And that was at number 7928, the boarding house?
Yeah. I checked it out. The party was going on up on the 3rd floor. I went up, found the girl and the 2 men in the room facing on the street. The girl was fixing a pop for herself. When I came in, 2 caps of heroin on the table in front of her.
Mm-hmm. What'd you do then?
I made a grab for the 2 caps. One of the guys beat me to it. He got him, ran to the next room, and tried to flush him down the drain. He didn't quite make it, though. I got one of the caps before he could get rid of it.
What'd you do then, Blanchard?
Well, I sat the 3 of them down, called into the office. I checked the room over while we were waiting, found 2 more caps of heroin, usual equipment to go with it. When the radio car showed up, the 3 of them were taken downtown to narcotics squad and booked. That's all I can tell you about it.
Well, during the time you were waiting there in the room, Blanchard, did you have any trouble with the suspects at all?
Well, I got a lot of talk from one of the men, a fellow by the name of Evans. He's supposed to run the boarding house. Claims he didn't have anything to do with it. He didn't know the girl was a hype. You know, the usual stuff.
That was the extent of it? Just talk?
Sure, that's all. Why?
Well, that's not the story, according to Evans. He had his lawyer bail him out last night. He was in to file charges against you.
Huh? What do you mean?
Assault and battery. He claims that you worked him over for no reason at all. He says you beat him up and dislocated his shoulder.
Oh, he's crazy. He's lying. I didn't work him over.
Well, he says he's got witnesses to prove it, Blanchard. The 2 people who were with him, the woman, the other man. He says they'll swear that's what you did.
Yeah, but it's not true. They're trying to cook up a frame. I didn't touch any of them.
Well, this Evans looked like he's been mussed up. Cuts and bruises all over his face. His shoulders fairly recent, too.
Yeah, I know that, but I didn't do it. He was in the same shape when I found him up in that room yesterday. Matter of fact, I asked him about it. He wouldn't tell me. It's the truth, Sergeant, so help me. All 3 of them are lying. I didn't beat him up.
Well, it's your word against theirs, Blanchard. The facts seem to favor Evans.
I don't get this at all. 2 of those people are known hypes. They'd swear anything for a free cap. You know that. What good is their word?
Maybe no good at all. It's not up to us to decide. Evans filed a complaint. It's our job to follow through.
Now, you're sure about the shape Evans was in when you found him up in that room yesterday, Blanchard? He was already marked up, is that right?
I'm sure he was. I told you. I asked him about it. He wouldn't answer me.
But you had no way of proving that you couldn't possibly have been responsible for it.
Well, it's up to him, isn't it, Evans? If he says I worked him over, let him prove it.
I'm afraid he's got the jump there. 2 witnesses.
Yeah, but they're lying. You must know that. They're lying.
Well, now, look, you can see the position it puts us in. If you're innocent, we're going to do all we can. If you're guilty, we'll see that you get everything that's coming to you.
Well, you know it as well as I do, Sergeant. I had no reason to beat him up. I didn't do it.
Well, it's not up to us, Blanchard. The court will have to decide.
Doesn't make sense. None of it does.
There's no other way to handle it. We got 4,500 men in the department. We don't claim they're all saints. Once in a while, one of them turns bad, and all of us get a black eye. You're in a jam, Blanchard. Like anyone else, you'll get a fair trial.
Yeah. Well, what happens now? Do I draw suspension?
Yeah, that's right. If you're cleared of the charges in court, there'll be a hearing before the Board of Rights.
Am I through right now?
We'll have to book you in at the main jail. Case will be presented at the DA's office tomorrow.
Doesn't make sense. I had no reason to beat up Evans, no reason at all.
You sure of that, are you?
What do you mean? Of course I'm sure.
Well, Evans claims you did have a reason, a good one.
What?
Well, he says you handed him a proposition. He wouldn't go for it, so you worked him over.
What do you mean? What kind of a proposition?
A bad kind.
Huh?
He says you wanted a payoff. Investigating charges against a police officer involves exactly the same procedure as cases where private citizens are concerned. Prove the suspect innocent or guilty. If Blanchard was innocent, it wasn't going to be an easy job proving it. If he hadn't beat up the complainant, George Evans, and dislocated his shoulder, it seemed the only way out would be to find the man who did. Either that or prove that the two witnesses Evans had come up with were lying. If Blanchard was guilty, if he actually had slugged and beaten Evans, we had to find sufficient evidence and we had to find a motive. 11:10 a.m., Ed and I took Officer Harry Blanchard over to the main jail where he was booked in and lodged in one of the cell blocks. Then we went upstairs to the women's jail where we interviewed one of the witnesses to the alleged beating, an Eleanor Rowland. She'd had previous arrests for vagrancy, grand theft auto, and petty theft, as well as an established reputation as a user of narcotics. She was 23 years old.
Yeah, it was terrible. That cop really roughed him up, poor old Evans. Cop didn't have to treat him like that.
How long have you known George Evans, Miss Rowland? You old friends?
No, I wouldn't say that. I met him a couple weeks ago when I came down from north.
San Francisco?
Portland. I was visiting up there. I'm a Portland girl originally.
Well, how about this other man you were with at the time Officer Blanchard picked you up, this Ray Sherman? He an old friend?
Buster? Yeah, I've known him a few years.
Does he know Evans very well?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Ray's had a room at the boarding house a couple of years. I guess he's good friends with Evans. Say, can I ask you something?
Yes, ma'am.
You ever work narcotics up in Portland?
No, ma'am, never have.
Face is familiar. Could have sworn I met you in Portland.
Do you want to run over that story again for us, Miss Rowland, about what happened yesterday?
Not much to say, just same as I told you.
You usually stay at Evans' rooming house when you're in town, do you?
No, it's only the second time I was there.
How about George Evans? Was he there at the time?
No, not first. Me and Buster had a pop, and then we sat around and talked. Evans came in a little later. Three of us talked. Told me and Buster not to bring any more junk in the house. He didn't want to get into trouble. And speak of the devil, a cop walked in.
What happened then?
Buster grabbed two caps off the table, tried to get rid of them. He only got rid of one, though. The cop got the other one.
Well, how'd the argument start? You remember that? Between Evans and the officer, I mean.
Well, I was a little high at the time. I don't remember it word for word. Evans said he didn't have anything to do with it, but the cop kept pressing him. He told Evans he'd forget about it if Evans would pay him off. Evans told him no, he wouldn't give him a cent, and the cop started beating him up.
You were in the same room with him all this time?
Yeah, Buster and me. We saw it all, poor old Evans. He really got worked over. Cop didn't have to treat him like that. Say, are you sure you're not from Portland?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sure. Now, about how many times would you say the officer hit Evans?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that exactly. Dozens of times, I guess. Kept hitting him with his fist, pushed him all around the room. I was a little high at the time. I don't remember everything exactly. Sure could use a booster about now.
Are you sure about everything you've told us, Miss Rowland? That's the truth?
Yeah, that's right. Some of the details I didn't remember so well. He straightened it out for me, though. He told me just what happened.
Who's that?
George Evans.
11:50 a.m. Ed and I continued questioning Eleanor Rowland. The more we talked to her, the more we were convinced that at the time of the alleged beating, she was under a heavy dose of narcotics, and that for the most part, she'd picked up her version of the story from the alleged victim, George Evans. We went down to the second floor of the main jail to one of the interview rooms where we talked to the second witness, Ray Sherman, alias Tom Raymond, alias Buster Raymond. He also had a long record as a user of narcotics. He gave the same general version of the incident as the Rowland girl did, but despite the girl's story, he claimed he was not under the influence of narcotics at the time Officer Blanchard entered the room and made the arrest. Besides that, there were other discrepancies. 1:05 p.m., we had some lunch at the Federal Cafe, and then we drove out to interview the complainant in the case, George Evans. After checking at his rooming house, we finally located him in a neighborhood bowling alley. He was sitting at a bar adjoining the actual playing area, drinking a bottle of beer. Parts of his face and neck were bandaged, and his left shoulder was in a cast. He appeared friendly and cooperative.
I kept telling the cop I didn't have any money. Told him I wouldn't give him a payoff even if I did.
So he started working you over, that right, Evans?
Yes, that's right. I don't have anything against cops normally, but this guy, that's something else. How do you ever get on the force anyway?
Had you ever had any contact with Officer Blanchard before yesterday, Evans?
Yes, I did, twice before. Came to the house, accused me of running a hideout for thieves, junkies. Tried to get me to pay him off then, too. I wouldn't do it.
That's, when was that, Evans?
About 6-8 months ago. Yeah, at least that.
Well, how was it you didn't report Blanchard then?
Well, I wouldn't cause any trouble, get mixed up in a law case. I figured I could take care of him myself. But after that going over yesterday, that was enough for me. I don't understand how the guy ever made the force to begin with.
What's the matter?
That shoulder of mine, he really tore it apart.
How'd you spend your time yesterday, Evan? Do you mind telling us?
No, I don't mind. I slept till about 12:30, 1 o'clock. Had a little bit of a hangover. Then I got up, made some breakfast, and read the paper. That's about size of it.
You mean you were in your room all day after the time you went down the hall to Ray Sherman's room?
That's right. Ray was there with this girlfriend of his, Eleanor. I didn't know she was a hype. That's the truth. Ray should have known better having her there. I don't like the kind of stuff going on around my place.
Now, we've checked you through the record bureau, Evans. There's been 3 or 4 similar cases at your places the last few years, hasn't there?
A couple, yeah. It's a real problem. I don't know how you keep them out. Whole neighborhood around here, you know. Pretty hard to stop it, I guess.
We understand you were in the room there while the girl helped herself to a fix. Is that right?
No, I wasn't in the room when she took the fix. I got there a couple minutes after. I didn't even know what was going on. You can ask Ray Sherman, the girl, too. They'll tell you I wasn't there.
Well, there's something else we wanted to ask you about. Sherman and the girl don't seem too sure of their stories. Can you straighten us out there?
What do you mean?
Well, Sherman told us one thing, the girl tells us something else. Can't seem to get together.
Yeah, but I told him.
You told him what, Evan?
Well, nothing. I told him to tell the truth, that's all. That stupid Ray. He doesn't know half the time what he's doing.
Well, that doesn't make him much of a witness then, does it?
Well, what do you mean? He was there when that cop slugged me, beat me up. He could see that much.
Well, that's just it. We're not sure he did.
Huh?
The girl says Blanchard worked you over in the living room there. Sherman says Blanchard took you out in the kitchen and beat you up. Now, which is it?
I think I'm beginning to get the pitch.
How's that?
You're out to cover up for that cop. Is that it? Take care of your own?
We're assigned to investigate this thing, Evans, just like any other criminal case. Blanchard's not getting any more of a break than any other suspect would.
Yeah, sure.
We still haven't answered our question. Where did it happen, living room or kitchen?
The interview's all over, Sergeant. I got the pitch. You can take this back to your office. I'm going to get that cop convicted. If it's the last thing I do, you can count on that.
What's the matter, Evans? All we did was ask you a simple question.
Don't try to kid me, Sergeant. I got the angle. You're trying for a cover-up. Okay, go ahead and try.
Now, look, why don't you snap out of it, mister? Nobody's trying to cover up unless it's you. Sherman and the girl are your witnesses. Some of the points of their stories don't check out. We want to clear them up. Does that sound unreasonable?
I told you, Sergeant. It's no use. I got your angle.
Answer me one more thing, Evans.
You're on your own. I'm telling you nothing.
Who was the doctor that treated you after you were beaten up?
Down at Georgia Street, the emergency. You ought to know that.
No, I mean for your shoulder. We checked over your car down at Georgia Street. No mention there of a dislocated shoulder.
No, of course not. I didn't even know I had one until I was bailed out. I had my own doctor fix it.
You mind giving us his name?
Why should I? I was willing to go along, cooperate, then you started playing the cage. You're trying to cover up for that cop. Now you work it out on your own.
All right, mister. Any way you want it.
You bet that's the way I want it. You had this whole thing framed from the beginning.
Now you're off the track, Evans.
You're not kidding me. You're trying to prove that cop's innocent, trying to make me out a liar. What am I supposed to do, help you prove I'm a liar?
No, you've helped enough already. Ed and I double-checked through Officer Blanchard's departmental record. It showed that Blanchard had been working his present beat for a little more than 4 months. Evans had told us that Blanchard allegedly had solicited payoffs from him at least 6 to 8 months before. The following day, Ed and I made further inquiries in the neighborhood of Evans' rooming house and also among his friends and associates. For one thing, we found out that Evans had not spent the entire morning and early afternoon in the house. He'd been seen leaving his place by several neighbors at about 10 a.m. Through one of his contacts, we got the address of an ex-wife, since remarried, a Marie Evans Zarconi. We located her in a small apartment in the East Wilshire district, a small brunette woman about 35.
Now, you tell us she used to be married to Evans.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, what kind of business was Evans in when you were married to him, ma'am?
Well, he had that rooming house over on Cortland
Yes,
Avenue.
ma'am, we know about that. Was there anything else?
What's the matter, anyway?
Just a routine investigation. We'd like to have as much background on him as you can remember. Are you on fairly good terms with Evans now?
No, I haven't seen him since we split up. About a year and a half ago, I think. That's why I couldn't stand him.
What was the trouble, ma'am? You mind telling us?
He just isn't much good, that's all. You find a lot of names to fit him. He was in everything.
How do you mean?
That's why I got away from him. Every cheap, lousy racket you can think of, he was in it. Peddling dope, blackmail, making book. Some of the two-bit rackets, he's been in all of them. One after the other. I had to get away.
The rooming house on Cortland Avenue, that's where he's been operating all this time?
As long as I've known him, yeah. About 3 years, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Is narcotics just a sideline with him, or does he go in for it pretty heavy?
He was in it pretty heavy when I left him. I don't know what he's been doing since. I don't care. Just soon forget all about it.
Yes, ma'am, I can understand.
What's the matter now, anyway? Got a case against him?
Well, not exactly. Evans is filed against a police officer, assault and battery, soliciting a bribe. We're investigating the charges.
Sounds like him. Some cop really rough him up?
Well, we don't know, ma'am. That's what we're trying to find out.
Oh. Well, I'd like to help you out. Don't think I can, though.
Well, just one more question, ma'am. While you were married to Evans, did you have a family doctor? I mean, one that you called regularly when you were sick?
Yeah, we did. Why?
Well, what was his name? Can you remember?
Yeah, Dr. Chase. Would you like his address?
2:47 p.m. We got to Dr. Chase's office, and luckily we found him in.
Take a look at this magazine, Joe.
What?
National Geographic. Looks like a real old one, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it sure does. The cover's torn off there.
Yeah. What do you know about that? It's older than I thought. Look at this here.
Well, what do you got?
These pictures, eh? Look. 4 pages of them. Pretty grand affair, huh?
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt breaks ground for Panama Canal.
How about that? Yeah.
Sorry to keep you waiting, gentlemen.
That's perfectly all right, Doctor.
Let's see now. You want to know about...
Mr. Evans, Doctor. George Evans.
Oh, yes, Evans. What was it exactly, Sergeant? What did you have in mind?
Well, the first thing we'd like to know is if you've treated Evans recently, the last week or so.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have. He was in here, well, let me see now. Let's see, yes, I thought so. He was in here 3 days ago. I had some bad cuts and bruises.
Mm-hmm.
They'd already been treated, though. There wasn't much I could do.
Was there anything else wrong with him, Doctor?
No, not actually. I examined his shoulder. He insisted it hurt him. He wanted me to put it in the cast.
Mm-hmm. You put the cast on, did you?
Well, there really wasn't any need for it, but I put it on anyway. A little bit of psychiatry. Thought it'd make him feel better.
Well, how do you mean, Doctor? Wasn't any need for it?
Just one of those peculiar things. I've been treating Evans for some time, you know.
Yes, sir. That's what we understand.
It's fairly unusual. Hardly a rare case, though. Suppose you might call it a trick shoulder. Looks as though it might be dislocated, but it actually isn't. I think it's voluntary.
You mean he could do this thing himself?
Oh, yes. He can make it appear dislocated anytime he wants.
You are listening to Dragnet. Authentic stories of your police force in action.
Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Now, best of all, king-size cigarettes. Prove it yourself today.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friends, in Fatima, the difference is quality. Fatima contains the finest domestic and Turkish tobaccos superbly blended. And Fatima is extra mild, with a much different, much better flavor and aroma. Because of its quality, its extra mildness, its better flavor and aroma, more smokers now insist on Fatima than ever before. Switch to Fatima today. Remember, each king-size Fatima filters and cools the smoke, gives you those extra puffs, and you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Saturday, June 15th, 10 a.m. The investigation continued. Meantime, the newspapers were still making front-page material out of the story. One of the morning banner lines read, "Cop slugs cripples citizen to get payoff," and another one, "Police brutality rouses entire city." Our investigation went on. Early Saturday afternoon, Ed and I succeeded in locating a former friend of Evans who told us that he'd seen him downtown the morning of the day on which the alleged beating had taken place. The same time Evans had told us he was in bed nursing a hangover. The former friend, a Fred Werner, said Evans was in the company of 2 known gamblers, Carl Sweetser and Stanley Parrish. He told us that he'd spotted the 3 of them together at about 11:45 a.m. We questioned Sweetser and Parrish, but they refused to tell us anything. They admitted that they were acquainted with Evans, but they knew nothing about the beating he'd received. We continued making the rounds. 5:30 p.m. We dropped to the main jail and questioned Evans' 2 witnesses again, Ray Sherman and Eleanor Rowland. We got the same stories as before. 6:18 p.m. We got back to the city hall.
Long stretch, huh? Sure be glad to get home.
Yeah, not a bad day, though. We had fair luck, didn't we?
I suppose so. It could always be better. Sure like to get the straight story one way or the other.
You want to check the book, Ed, see if we got anything?
Yeah, okay. No, not much, Joe. Call from a Tom Donnelly, you know him?
Donnelly? No, that doesn't sound too familiar to me.
I got it. Personnel Jacobs. How's that? Oh, afraid he's gone for the night. Yeah, huh? No, I'm sorry. I wouldn't know. All right, thank you. There's another message here for us, Joe, in the book.
Yeah?
From Blanche's wife again. I'm getting to feel pretty silly about it, telling her the same thing night after night. Why don't you call her tonight?
Well, you've been doing all right. Why give up now? Personnel, Friday. Yeah. What was that? Mm-hmm. Your name? Yeah, okay. Uh-huh. 10 o'clock tonight? All right, that's fine. That's so. Sure. Yeah, we'll meet you. Okay. 10 o'clock. Yeah, fine. Bye. Sounds pretty good.
Who was it?
Guy by the name of Martin Kimbrough says he knows George Evans. He wants to talk to us tonight.
What's the pitch?
I don't know. Might be straight, might not.
What'd he say?
About Evans being worked over. He claims he knows all about it.
Yeah?
He says Blanchard couldn't possibly have done it. 7:05 p.m. We went over to Frank Tang's place, had some dinner, and then we drove out to interview the man who'd identified himself on the phone as Martin Kimbrough. We located him at the designated meeting place, a small bar just off Beverly Boulevard and Normandy Avenue. Kimbrough was a small man, slight build, middle-aged. He seemed less sure of himself than he did on the phone. He said that he knew George Evans fairly well and that up until 6 months before he'd been on good terms with him. He didn't go into details, but he gave us the general idea that Evans had cheated him on some business deal the two of them had been engaged in. We asked Kimbrough about the beating Evans had taken. He said it was common knowledge among the people he traveled with that gamblers Carl Sweetser and Stanley Parrish were responsible for beating up Evans. He'd welched on a gambling debt, and the two of them had been after him for months to pay off. He also said he knew a close friend of the two gamblers who told him that in private, Carl Sweetser openly boasted of beating up Evans. According to Kimbrough, the beating had taken place about 1 p.m. the Monday before, the same day Officer Blanchard allegedly had given him the beating. We located Sweetser in the coffee shop of a small hotel on South Rampart Street.
I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, Sergeant. I don't know any George Evans. I've never heard of him.
We understand you do, Sweetser. Heard you used to play cards with him. Got it from a couple of people.
That's all. I guess they made a mistake. I don't remember the name at all. If he's going under a different one, huh?
Well, how about his description? You ought to remember that.
Well, maybe I meet quite a few people. It's kind of hard to place all of them, you know. What kind of look like?
Oh, he's tall, dark complexion, dark hair, scar under his chin. He dresses pretty well, usually wears a suit.
No, it doesn't mean a thing to me.
Runs a rooming house over on Cortlandt Avenue. He's been in quite a few rackets on and off.
Sorry, I'm afraid I wouldn't know him.
Now, look, we haven't got any beef with you, Sweetser. That's not the point. Evans is trying to get away with a fast one. We're out to stop him. We could use your help. How about it?
I don't see how I can help you. What's the beef, anyway?
We think you know. It's been all over the newspapers the last couple of days.
Oh, yeah, a young cop? What's Evans got against him, anyway?
He's trying to save face. We figure that's what we hear, anyway.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I think you know how Evans likes to play the big shot. It wouldn't do his stock much good around town if the real story got out.
I don't follow. What story are you talking about?
About his welching on a gambling tab, getting roughed up. If he says a cop did it, makes him look a lot better, doesn't it? He comes out of it pretty clean that way, doesn't he?
Pass us all, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Why don't you guys have some coffee? I hate to eat alone.
Okay, as soon as the waitress comes around.
Yeah. Oh, what else you hear about this Evans? Pretty bad boy, that, right?
Bad enough. He's got a fast mouth, telling quite a few stories around the neighborhood.
That's so. Yeah, I might remember him. Tall, dark guy who runs a rooming house.
Yeah, that's right. You should remember him. He's mentioned you in a couple of the stories he's passing around.
Yeah, where'd you get that?
Talking to a fellow last night. He says Evans claims that card game he was in with you was rigged. That's why he didn't pay you off. He claims you and Stan Parrish framed the whole thing. Is that right?
That's a laugh. Huh? Phony bums are all alike. Lose a couple of dollars and squeal like a pig. What's this Evans doing now?
He's up for narcotics rap. He's out on bail.
Cheap punk. What's your stake in this thing?
We're trying to clear the thing up. Apparently, Evans figures he's going to frame the young cop, save face, talk himself out of a bad situation.
Oh, what do you want from me?
The truth.
I'm not going to talk myself into jail, young cop or not.
We're not asking you to.
You want to clear the case, huh? All you need is proof the cop didn't give Evans a working over.
That's right.
Okay, you got a deal.
Without actually incriminating himself in any way, Carl Sweetser gave us information and leads which, after they were checked out, showed definitely that George Evans was slugged and beaten in a neighborhood at least a mile from his rooming house. We talked to half a dozen people who saw Evans in that neighborhood shortly after 1 p.m., the day of the incident. We talked to the clerk at the drugstore where Evans went to buy iodine and bandages. They all told us that he bore the markings of a severe beating as early as 1 o'clock that afternoon. Evans had told us repeatedly that he'd received the beating at the hands of Officer Blanchard no earlier than 3 or 3:15 that afternoon. Ed and I drove over to the main jail where we interviewed Evans' two witnesses again. The girl, Eleanor Rowland, was the first to break. She admitted that Evans had promised both her and her friend, Ray Sherman, $50 apiece if they would go along with him in his plan to frame Officer Blanchard for assault and battery and soliciting a bribe. After an hour of questioning, Sherman admitted the same thing. We had a stenographer take their statements. 4:50 p.m., Ed and I got in the car and drove out to the rooming house on Cortlandt Avenue.
Yeah? Oh, how are you, Sergeant?
You want to get your coat, Evans? Like to see you downtown.
What for? What's it about?
Filing a false report. You know the story.
What are you talking about? What do you mean a false report?
You've been checked out all over town, Evans. Your doctor, your ex-wife, your gambling friends. We talked to them all.
So what? What's that prove anyway?
Proves you were lying, mister. That young Officer Blanchard, he didn't beat you up. There's nothing wrong with your shoulder either. Dr. Chase will vouch for that.
Look, I don't care what he says. I don't care what any of them say. I got my case against that cop. I'm sticking with it. You're not going to talk to me.
Why don't you give it up, Evans? We had a talk with Carl Sweetser.
What did he tell you?
Enough to convince us you're trying to frame Blanchard. We've got statements from people who saw you before you got back home Monday afternoon. They say you were mussed up then. That was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You've been telling us Blanchard wasn't at your place till 3 o'clock. Now, how do you explain that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I didn't have the time right. My watch could have been off. Doesn't make any difference anyway.
It's going to make a lot of difference. How about getting your coat?
I'm going to call my lawyer first.
That isn't going to do much good. We've got statements from your two witnesses, Ray Sherman and the girl. They've admitted the whole thing. Now, you haven't got much of a case left.
I don't care what they say. They're lying. Both of them, they're lying.
You ought to know, mister.
What?
You taught them how.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On September 2nd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 89, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I sincerely want you to smoke Fatima and prove Fatima quality. You know, we have a lot of confidence in our king-size cigarette. Enough confidence to make you this money-back guarantee. Buy a pack of Fatimas. Compare them with any other king-size cigarette. If you're not convinced Fatima is better, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1. Buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
A complaint was received on George Evans from the city attorney's office for violation of Section 5243 Municipal Code, filing a false report to the police department, a misdemeanor. He received a sentence of 30 days in the county jail. Ray Sherman was tried and found guilty of Section 11500 Health and Safety Code, possession of narcotics. He was sentenced to 1 year in the county jail and 3 years probation. Eleanor Rowland was filed on as a bag addict, Section 11721 Health and Safety Code. She was sentenced to 60 days in the county jail. Officer Harry Blanchard was cleared of the charges pending against him and was reinstated with back pay. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, and Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips and Whit Connor. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Now, it's Counter Spy on NBC.